Hi, folks. This is Mark Bittman from Food with Mark Bittman, and I'm going to share some money-saving tips when it comes to shopping at Whole Foods Market. It's great to be a Prime member when you shop at Whole Foods Market because you get an extra 10% off all sales, excluding alcohol. On Tuesdays, take advantage of deals like buy one, get one 50% off on packaged soups and $2 off of their no antibiotics ever rotisserie chicken. Huge Friday savings on ready-to-eat sushi rolls, 12 for $12, all live oysters, any hot one-topping pizza for just $12, and there are even more deals. There are so many ways to save at Whole Foods Market, and now you know.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hello and welcome to this. It is the EggChasers Rugby Podcast, the podcast about rugby. It doesn't take itself or the game too seriously. I am doing the intro for logistical reasons, but let me just say this, boys. Merry new season.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. This episode will be called Season 12, Episode 1.
Indeed it will. The Premiership starts all over again. And not until it happens do I realise how much I've missed it.
That's when the new season officially begins, from in your perspective, because top 14's been going for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, for me, it's all about the Premiership. So everything could have started before it, or if the Premiership starts before everything else, whenever the Premiership starts, that's the new season.
And this is late. Like domestic league season in England's been going for a couple of weeks. Did we top 8? You had time to lose a couple of games yet? Win a couple of games?
We have won 2, lost 1.
Oh, so that's all right.
We're on a winning streak of 2 now. It's a streak.
Yeah.
I tell you what, we beat a very good Old Winians team this week, who I think are going to be right up there at the top of the table. Right up there. When the season's done and dusted, I wouldn't be surprised if they are one or 2.
When is the big Broughton Park derby match?
Well, it's not next week, because next week is Aspel, another club which I have a load of time for. So probably the week after that, because there's not that many teams. There's only, maybe it'd be Heaton Moor, Broughton Park, yeah? It'll be one of those 2.
Are you going to be playing, or are you just purely
I'm trying
coaching now?
not to play, because when you need a 40-year-old prop, things aren't going well, are they? And also, I don't know if you heard me speaking to Mark Evans this week.
I've not listened to that yet.
Right.
No. It's on my list.
Good.
Forward to it.
Well, we have a little bit about scrimmaging, coaching scrimmaging, and we both agree, like, the only way you can learn to scrimmage is to scrimmage in live sessions and also in games.
In games.
It's got to be games.
In games.
You know, you can't teach it otherwise. So I want somebody else, in fact, lots of other people, to have as many minutes as possible scrimmaging. Because when else will you learn? You're just putting off the problem for next season.
Yes, definitely. And that's, I mean, it's a point we've made previously, or it plays to a point we made previously about the A-League or the Reserve League, whatever you want to call it, the under-20s league for the Premiership. These boys shouldn't be playing 4 games a season in that. They should be out playing for a National One or a Championship side.
Indeed.
Certainly as a front row, that's maybe even better experience.
And can I just add to that? So I've done 1 week now of pre-season training with the Manchester Metropolitan University lot.
Freshers week.
In every day this last week. Mm-hmm. And we just did on Friday. We did mostly game-based stuff with scenarios and condition rules and stuff, but live scrums.
All the time.
We got 12 full live scrums under our belt.
That's what you need.
Yeah.
And just keep account of them and then make it into a point of pride that you've done 150 live scrums, even if they're shit. Right? They think they've done 150 live scrums before the season starts. They'll be bouncing. And no one else has done that. And actually, at university level, no one else has done that. You'll start killing people.
Definitely.
Well, yeah. So, I've basically making my mantra with that team, speed kills, because we don't have the biggest set of packs. So it's just we're going to be first to the scrum, set early, first to the line out, set early. Pace. We're going to go coast to coast. We're going to kick long behind them. So we're just going to make big boys run. Well,
the way that I describe it is that every time you show up, even if you've just been battered, if you show up first, eventually someone will start doubting themselves, like, why are they here again?
Yeah.
Like, over and over again. So, yes, I completely agree with your philosophy, Tim. Perfect. And actually, not only is it perfect with smaller guys, it's perfect with bigger guys too. Because if you're battering people and still showing up first, it's even better.
No, if I had a 1 ton pack, I would be saying slow it down every now and again. One of you take a knee. I'd never encourage
Imagine the Springbok pack calling you in. Hurry up, get here, get to me. Oh no!
But they don't for a reason, because they are that big.
Yeah.
They do the opposite.
I saw some remarkable scrimmaging today from Sale Sharks.
There was some very good scrimmaging early on.
We've got, in fact, that's the thing. Actually, let me just do the housekeeping.
Yes, of course.
And then we can decide the way we're going to plot a route through all of the rugby.
We've all watched a lot of rugby this weekend.
Yeah. First and foremost, thank you very much for listening. If you want to get more content, well, you can. As JB just mentioned, there is an Eggonomics episode in the feed, which is a little monthly offering where Mark Evans, who's a rugby luminary, rugby administration savant, who's down there working with Fijian Drua and gives up his time to...
If you want to hear someone tell me I'm wrong all the time, that is the podcast.
No, JP.
You are wrong. I am wrong, Mark.
Then that's in the feed. You can get more episodes, more exclusive episodes actually, at patreon.com/EggChasers. And even if you just want to support the podcast because you appreciate the fact we've been there for you 52 weeks of the year, every single Monday morning, now into our 12th season. No other grassroots podcast, no other podcaster, let alone the Johnny Come Lately grassroots podcasters. None of them do that. So we're there for you all the time. If you just want to show some support, you can go to patreon.com/EggChasers. You can get in touch with us on email, contact eggchasers@gmail.com, and just hit subscribe wherever you're listening right now. What do you want to do? How are we going to do this?
Well, I've seen every single second of every single game, so I don't mind. Whichever way you want to do it. Sorry, Premiership game. Okay. And I've been to a live game, 2 live games. I've been to Talk H, which we'll talk about in detail, excruciating detail, and Sale Sharks, which is excruciating in its detail.
I've watched chunks of the Premiership, chunks of the URC, and I've watched both Rugby Championship games.
I watched every Premiership game live. I've watched both both Rugby Championship games live.
Okay.
The only bit of URC I've watched is Ulster's heroic win at the death against the reigning champions Glasgow to take the URC. Ulster now current reigning URC champions.
Dean Ryan logic. That means Ulster are best team in the URC.
Best team in the URC. Argentina are World Cup winners.
World Cup winners.
Yep. Bath Premiership current holders as well.
True.
Toulouse unbeaten. Some things never change.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. How about top line thoughts just about whatever you want to talk about, sort of right before we go in delving into any detail too much in any direction? Any sort of top line kind of thoughts?
No is the answer, because there's just not enough to dig into yet with the themes. There are a couple of maybe points we could talk about. For instance, England might have a lot of promising young insight centres out of nowhere, particularly big insight centres. I mean,
I'd say that's a good top line thought to come out of it.
Well, the thing is, it's a little bit early, isn't it, to say, we definitely need to Will Butt.
So you're thinking Lennox and Yanwu.
I didn't even
Oscar
think about him
as the pair.
Lennox and Yanwu in particular, definitely. In fact, I've got a thought about him in a second. Will Butt, is it Tommy? No, Tommy Allen is the fly half. What's his name? Is it Allen who plays for Newcastle? The 12 for Newcastle this week I thought was very good.
I can't remember.
What on earth was his name?
No idea.
It's bugging me now. It'll come back to me in a second, and when it does, I'll tell you all about him. But yeah, I thought
Arnold was playing.
Tommy Arnold?
Don't know. I genuinely don't know the guy.
Never heard of him.
Oh, it'll come back to me in a second. Don't worry about it. And of course, Seb Atkinson, who came on against...
Sammy Arnold,
that's the boy. Seb Atkinson came on for Gloucester and did some very nice things. And also, England might have a new fly half in Fergus Burke, who had a very accomplished first start.
He had a solid first start.
Didn't he?
I don't think he did anything spectacular. The spectacular stuff was done by people around him. Andy Christie.
Surely he's Irish qualified as well with a name like that.
You'd have thought so, wouldn't you?
And they need 10s more than England.
He definitely is English qualified. That's why he was brought in. If he was Irish qualified, Ireland would have scouted him years ago.
Ireland would know all about it.
Yeah,
I mean, they found out that bloody... What's his...
Billy Burns.
Yeah, Billy Burns was Irish qualified.
Well, like, the starter for Ulster this weekend, Aidan Morgan, a 23-year-old who I wasn't even aware of, even though he played at my beloved Cairns in New Zealand. Of course, he's Irish qualified.
I mean, they're so good. One of the greatest mysteries of all time, including like the pyramids and stuff like that, is how did they know Jameson Gibson Park was good? I will never understand that. Like, they picked the second best scrum half in the world.
He was only there to be Luke McGrath's backup. It was actually Andy Farrell picked him for Ireland. Here's something which is often overlooked. Andy Farrell selected him for Ireland when he was the backup at Leinster. He was a starter for Ireland. He was pulled into the Ireland squad before he was a starter at Leinster. Right? Andy Farrell knows things.
Somebody knows things, because that is just one of the most remarkable bits of rugby scouting the world has ever... In fact, one of the most remarkable bits of scouting. It's like finding the second best footballer out of just nowhere. Nowhere.
Like George Weah's cousin.
Yes.
we made this point before, but Gibson Park was not selected for the All Blacks under-20s in 2012. I can't remember who was ahead of him, but it wasn't like world beaters. It wasn't the number one best scrum half in the world at that time.
Yeah.
He was at least third or fourth choice in the under-20s in his year in
Who do
New
you
Zealand.
Want? Get me the fourth choice under-20s New Zealand scrum half. He's definitely the second best in the world.
Yes.
Right, so
exactly.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about one Premiership game now. Let's get the Premiership ball rolling. Let's go in South Africa, and then we'll do something else.
Well, let's do the first one.
Okay.
Because it's a repeat of last year's final, and also it ties in with that first point that you made about big inside centres, and a point that we made last week, which we were looking over here and debating, should it be Redpath or a Jomu who's starting? If it's not a Jomu, he should move. And ignoring the fact that both those two are injured, and they've got another talented young, and this one is massive, in Will Butt, who had a great game.
He did have a bloody good game, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a lovely game.
I'll just give you my top line thought as well, which we can pin it on the board and come back to it. The URC, just on this one weekend alone, looked like it had Premiership level competitiveness.
I mean, I don't
6 matches.
Yeah, go on.
Total points difference between the teams in the 6 games, 11 points.
That's remarkable,
that is good.
Isn't it?
That's really good.
Admittedly, some of the matches were like Dragons v Ospreys. So when it's gonna be Leinster v Ospreys, I'm not so sure it'll be the same. But at least this weekend it was great.
Dragons in their 4th match in their tour to South Africa. There's not going to be settled by 1 or 2 points.
And brutal.
So
crack on.
Bath hammered Northampton in the end.
Power. So much power. Northampton, we talked about it last week. They're losing their leaders and 3 big cogs in their pack. Ludlam, Laws, Waller. They really missed him.
And when Bath, particularly in the forwards, got their carrying going, they were punching holes at will, weren't they?
Yeah. So when I saw the teams, the immediate weakness for me in Northampton was the second row. I just looked at the second row. I was like, don't know what you're going to win with Chungamunga and Angus Scott-Young. You'll win something. I mean, they're not terrible by any stretch, but they're not dominant. And then that front row is sort of serviceable with some good second rows, but it's not dominant.
There's a bit of a trend, if I would observe, for back rows in the lock position. There's a lot of that going on at the minute.
There is.
Exeter.
Well, Sale.
Had Capstick and Tuima, who's now... Tuima's now been converted to a lock, but Richard Capstick was in at lock as well.
Yeah, who is, to me, an athletic number 8 or a number 6, that kind of... almost like a Tom Crofty type character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is a fair bit of it. I mean, the problem is, with someone like Capstick, I think of something with Ted Hill, that kind of model, it'd just be a waste. It'd be a waste of talent.
Yeah, I could see that. And also, when you want your scrum to be solid, you need a bit more size than that.
You do. You really do. So Exeter can do it because they are absolutely enormous. But Northampton cannot. I mean, Northampton got some very dynamic players. I thought that Curtis Langdon, again, I'm going to talk about Curtis Langdon again, because he seems to have upped his game even further. But outside of that, Tom Pearson actually had a few good carries, but just wasn't enough from Northampton. They're just not strong enough up front, and they haven't got the cohesion of their attacking game to where it was last year. And that could be something to do with Tom James playing rather than Mitchell.
I think there's a little bit of that and a little bit of, well, they were on the back foot in the pack. Therefore, it is hard to play attacking rugby when you're on the back foot.
But Bath seem to have their act together. Like their pack is massive, their kick chase is solid, their defence is suffocating. The only thing I would say about Bath is they are susceptible to absolutely catastrophic errors in defence. So they can smash you for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then they will give up an absolutely catastrophic break. And they don't seem to have cured that yet. And that was a problem I felt last year too. But in general,
well, they only conceded one try.
Yeah,
which was down the left wing with Kemeny, who we've referenced before,
and they beat the champions by 22 points.
Smashed them.
Yeah,
they absolutely smashed them.
Bonus point win. Northampton get nothing.
Austin Healy in this game was absolutely raving about Spencer. He described him as the best box kicker of all time. Now, I'm not going to go that far because there's been some very good box kickers.
Stephen Jones will let us know who the best box kicker of all time is.
But he was very good. He was very, very good.
He was superb. And he scored one try and he set up, well, it was Wilbert who did the majority of the work, but his running lines and tip-on pass for the Ted Hill try was very important. And he just controls the game, doesn't he?
Ted Hill has got England written all over him.
I know. We've been saying this for a few years.
If he can stay fit again. He can just stay fit.
But he hits like a train in attack, in defence, and he's rapid as well.
He's amazing. Yeah. So Bath really do. I mean, the way they've built their squad, it's a complete gamble. Because if they're all fit, they must win something. I mean, I think they could even go far in Europe. A completely fit Bath team is dynamite.
I think Bath are better set than that. I think they've got depth that other teams don't.
Well, they have to. I mean, they literally have to. Think about their start.
What do you mean when you say they have to? They've only got 18 regular league games. You don't need the depth that you have
to go deep in Europe.
Oh, in Europe, yeah.
And also,
sure. I agree.
You're talking about Ted Hill, Sam Underhill, and Alfie Barbary,
who are those three.
Are you going to trust those guys to stay fit throughout the whole season? I mean,
no, I agree. They're being paid a lot of money, so.
And they are historically injury prone.
No. I totally agree, but that's where I think Bath have got. Bath are going to. Well, they're definitely going to be in the playoffs.
They've put a lot of money.
And they're definitely favourites to win. They need to put those best 15 out when it really matters.
They do.
But they're going to give themselves the best opportunity of doing that because they have depth of a squad. I can't understand how they afford the players they do and other teams.
Well, because exactly that. So a lot of their salary cap is spent very narrowly on players that other teams might not take a risk on for that sort of money, is what I believe. So, I mean, everyone would like Ted Hill, right? But what's the point in having Ted Hill if you don't see him for half the year? Mm-hmm. Everyone would love a fit Sam Underhill. Toulouse would love a fit Sam Underhill, but not at that cost.
Yeah, he's one of the best open sides in the world and has been for a number of years when he's fit.
In fact, they've got numerous players who are best in their position. Not in the world, but they top five, not even top five, but very, very effective guys. Mm-hmm. If they're all fit, great. The risk that they've got, particularly up front, is that they're not fit. So we will see. I mean, I think you're right, Tim. They need to start rotating heavily, even early on in the season, because they are going to beat teams. There again, there's not that many easy games in the Prem.
No, you got to make sure you get top four.
Yeah, you got to get top four. So
maybe three away wins this weekend now as well.
Maybe win early doors. Maybe get the first 5 games under your belt and then start resting them. Problem Bath will have, of course, is if they are that successful.
4 away wins.
They're going to start taking their players for England.
4 away wins.
Sorry. No, it is. Sorry. Ignore me.
Yeah, that's right.
Bristol, Leicester, Saracens.
Bristol look good. Newcastle, for all the chat about how they're going to avoid being the bottom team, I don't think they're going to avoid being the bottom team.
They won't avoid being the bottom team, but it wasn't a terrible outing by Newcastle, to be fair.
So I've only seen the highlights of this, but it looked like up to half-time, very close, and then last... Yeah, it's 3-5 at half-time. Can't ask for much more than that from the Newcastle team.
Yep.
But Bristol had enough. And from the highlights I saw, Newcastle never really fired a shot. They had one breakaway where they that was on the highlight reel where they had a 2-on-1 and blew it.
Well, Conor Docherty dropped 2 balls, which I believe he probably would have scored from at least one of them.
Yeah, the one that I've seen was if he takes the pass.
Yeah.
And now I couldn't, because they didn't replay it in the replay in the highlights, but you couldn't tell if it was his fault or the whoever passed the ball. But that was a try scoring opportunity. But it wouldn't have actually made any difference in this game.
No, it wouldn't have.
It would have been 24-10.
And when you look across all of the games, that was one of my observations, was rustiness. There was definitely rustiness. Gloucester did it a lot.
Times,
and Sale Harlequins was littered with rustiness.
Partly due to the conditions, Sale Harlequins.
Yeah, I'll give it that, but only a little bit.
Well, yeah. I mean, just sticking on Newcastle-Bristol for a second. Yeah, I think rustiness probably played a part with Bristol. There again, some of the complexity of the way that they score close in is very impressive.
Or not score.
But when did you see? I can't remember which try. Let me find out which try it was.
Which not try it was.
Or which not try it was. Was it the Malins try?
Oh right, you're talking about Bristol.
Yeah, when they.
I thought you were talking about.
No,
Newcastle.
sorry. They run some. I mean, for a team on their first outing, some of the complexity of their movement in open play is quite remarkable.
Oh yeah. No. I love the way Bristol play. We talked about this at the end in the pre-season review. They seem to have gone back to Lamball, and they're all the better for it at the end of last season. So it
does remind me actually of, like, say 5 years ago when they were doing all that crazy outside shape and maintaining it. I think it was a Malins try where they were quite close in, loads and loads of trickery, and even a very well drilled defence like Newcastle. Newcastle are not going to be as easy to beat as last year. I'm not sure what they're going to do.
That is kind of damning with faint praise.
Yeah, I agree with that. I still think they're going to finish bottom, and my concern is not their defence, it's their attack. Well,
my concern is that they're already talking about their injury list, and their injury list consists of Kieran Wilkinson, who was one of their second rows.
Doesn't matter.
Exactly right. It does not matter, does it? It just does not. I was like, well, I like Kieran Wilkinson. I don't know if he's going to turn around his season.
Also, yeah, exactly.
Although, what a great opportunity for a young English fly-half if you want to stay in the Premiership.
What a great opportunity for a Championship club if they're actually allowed to compete. And if they haven't gone bankrupt due to the shocking way that the RFU has run them into the ground. Yeah.
Also, James Williams. I want someone to talk about James Williams for Bristol. He should go to an England camp at this point.
The problem is he's playing next to Jancy van Rensburg.
Who, as soon as he qualifies, next November, I think
will go to an England camp.
Yes, I think he probably will go to England camp.
It's not Johnny
I don't like it.
James Williams.
I don't like it. I like it. I kind of don't want him to because he's not English. But if I were Benhard Jancy van Rensburg, I would go, and if I was Steve Borthwick, I would pick him.
Yeah,
I'd look at him. I'd look at James Williams. James Williams is a classy player, and he's done it the hard way. I like him a lot.
So we got Williams. We've got
that's a bit of unconscious bias there.
Massive unconscious bias.
Conscious bias.
No,
conscious bias. Yeah. It's I went to a. I thought it was going to be a real. I was like, we got invited to go to I was like, please, can you come along to a start of season seminar for coaches where we're going to talk about things like blah 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 unconscious bias. I went, oh my god, fine, I'll go along. And I went along. It was actually really, really good.
Okay. But
it genuinely made me think because this guy just stood up the front and he went, I'm going to, as a scout and as a coach, I have had this, I'm an absolute sucker for a lad who's had to get 2 different buses to get to training, has done it the hard way. And I have to just remember, I've got to leave all that out because I'm just judging purely, do they deserve their spot?
So I'm such a hypocrite, right? Because I would kind of agree with that, but then you can't not value that, can you?
Well, it depends what age they are. If it's a 14, 15-year-old, I think you can factor that in because you can go, imagine if they had a bit more time and a bit more ability, a bit more time to train and a bit less on their plate, they could be even better. But if we're talking about a full-time pro, James Williams, you can't keep going. He's done it the hard way. Get him in.
Oh, no, I disagree, right?
It's got to be, is he the best player?
Yeah, hang on a minute. hang on a minute, right? So
put that mic back.
Put my mic back, right? So the lad like James Williams, the fact that he is where he is now, I think is because of his hard work and because he hasn't given up. The easy thing to do when you're a young man, when you've gone to Sale Sharks, you've gone back to Nottingham, wherever he went next, is say, look, this isn't working. And I'm probably earning, I'm not being derisory about championship wages, but at a certain point, you've got to say to yourself, my future is better off being a recruitment consultant or a trainee accountant.
I agree with what you're saying.
What I mean? You've got to really want it to get back into Premiership.
I agree with what you're saying, but what I'm saying, when you're a pro being judged for England, all of that has to be completely ignored.
And everyone, if you're a pro rugby player, you've got to want it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you're comparing him to other pros.
Yeah,
they all want it.
When you're 26 or whatever it is, and you're all in Bristol, and you're still, you're not doing the business. Yeah, okay, absolutely fine. But the fact that he's made it that way tells me he's got.
I just hope he gets more than the bin juice contract that.
Oh, he won't. I mean, that's not the deal, is it? You go to Bristol because you're willing to play for what others won't.
One little note on Newcastle's Arnold, the inside centre.
Yes, please.
Sammy Arnold.
Yep.
Capped for Ireland.
Is he really?
28. Ulster, Munster, Connacht, spent the last 2 years at Bruce.
What was that? It's like the young English James Wilson.
It is exactly like...
Did anybody know that here?
I didn't know that. I didn't even know who he was.
No, I didn't know who he was.
So when I looked up Sammy Arnold, when I looked up that it was Sammy Arnold...
Glad you looked it up while we're on the podcast.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I was like, I know the name Sammy Arnold. I definitely know the... Where's he from? So then, obviously, looked him up. What I will say, though, is I think he will have come to... Newcastle as an EQP player, because even though his career history reads Ballynahinch, Garryowen, Ulster, Munster, Connacht, 10 caps for Ireland under 20 and 1 cap for Ireland proper, he was born in England and he hasn't played for Ireland since 2018.
Right. And last club was Brive.
So he will now be EQP.
Right. Well, there you go. I've got a picture of him here in his Munster kit. So maybe at 28, he's not quite the future that we...
He's not a young Englishman, although he is an Englishman or English qualified.
A long-time listener of the podcast, you will remember JB fawning over
young
English fullback, and it was the 32-year-old James Wilson, New Zealander.
By the way, what a player, though.
And he probably was English qualified at that point.
Yeah, by today's standards, he would be in. Do you know what? He was, back then... He was basically Max Malins. That's what he was.
He's the player. Max Malins wears James Wilson pyjamas.
Exactly right. He does. Exactly right.
We can revisit the Prem a little bit. We sort of chalked off a couple of games, touched on a couple of others we can return to.
Oh, sorry. Back to unconscious bias, right?
Yeah.
And ridiculous. Ridiculous things that you have to go to. So I'm not going to say too much about this because I won't mention any names either because it's a little unfair and they kind of were doing us a bit of a favour and whatnot. But I had the misfortune of listening to a presentation given to us by a CEO of a supermarket chain this week. Right?
Significant position.
A significant position. Maybe I'm unusual in thinking this, but I'm in a business networking event. Other people are also in business. There's a CEO of a substantial business in front of me. I want to hear about business. Does anyone else think that's a good idea? Does anyone else think I'm a bit weird like this, but I really want to hear about the pricing mechanism of carrots and how they deal with suppliers. Or
at the very least, if you wanted to make it something which could be applicable to everyone in the room, it could be how to change strategy and have it work, or how to manage a team through
how to make
adversity. Yeah, exactly.
We've had
a worked example of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I find that fascinating. We were subjected to his vision and his passions. I was like, Jesus Christ. So our ethos and our passion. And I'm just listening to this guy and I'm thinking, I've heard a lot of these blokes speak now. In fact, one of the worst of them used to be a CEO of a Premiership club, and they're just talking these nebulous terms. And I'm thinking now, if you want to get to the absolute height of corporate power, yes, you've got to be competent and smart and good at your job, but you've got to talk this brand of nonsense about vision and imagine being a waitress, right, and telling your boss about your vision and your ethos as you serve tables. These are luxury beliefs of aloof aloof elitists. Like, that's the only thing I can possibly think. And it's all nonsense. And to make it even worse, the thing which really triggered me, right, because of this podcast, of course, and the way that we talk about coaching, is he had like his personal development sheet, and it's on a big slide, like, here are my beliefs. It's like, I love my family. Yeah, don't we all? And then in the corner, it just said Pep. It said, that's my hero, Pep Guardiola. I'm like, what do you know about Pep Guardiola? I mean, generally, what do you actually know? As I always point out, I'm sure I could get
Man City. Lovely cashmere jumpers.
He's got a nice restaurant on King Street in Manchester.
Yeah. He's also in charge, much like I talk about, like Ben Ryan and Razzie Erasmus and like
Matt Proudfoot.
I mean, where do you think he'd get Man? If you're allowed to hire, if you had Man City's budget and you're in charge of Man City, do you think you could get Man City to third in the Premier League?
I'd be disappointed if I didn't make top four.
I could make top four. I could make top four easy. I mean, I've got the budget, right? I just employ lots of coaches. Like, having Pep Guardiola as your hero, I just don't think it's a good look. It shows you've done no research. Like, you have no idea about coaching. If you picked up someone like, I don't know, who was in charge of Brentford with all their statistics? That guy. Give me that guy.
Yeah, the owner. I can't remember his name. Well, you got Thomas Frank there, but no, the owner who is a former
Moneyballed it.
Yeah, I think it was either hedge funder or professional gambler, or possibly both.
Yes,
and basically applied data science to Brentford way before anyone else was doing it.
This is the last thing I'll talk about, right? Then we had to listen to all these things about charity. Now, I'm not going to talk about the actual charity because some charities are very worthy, and this one is worthy. But everything they do for charity just happens to coincide with this guy's personal interests. Like, is there anything you've done for charity recently at the behest of your shareholders which doesn't coincide with your personal hobbies? Like, is there anything? I played Warhammer for charity. Oh, well done. You know, like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? I went rugby training this week for charity.
So I'll make a beautiful segue from that to someone you just mentioned. Maybe the biggest rugby brain on the planet, Razzie Erasmus.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Who must be scratching his head. Or does he have anything to answer for a Springbok defeat against Argentina?
Yes. Well, he got Sia Khaleesi into the coaching box, so it's Sia's fault. You can just blame Sia.
There you go. Blame Sia.
Yes, he does. Yeah. And we were having the debate the other week about the trade-offs between putting your absolute strongest team up for every single game and winning as much as you possibly can, which is one way of doing it, and the alternative, which is experimenting, blooding young players, because who did some stats this week? It might have been Charlie Morgan, saying that 15 of the current Springbok squad, and indeed the World Cup winning squad, will be over 35 by the time in the next World Cup. You can't go in with 15 players in your 23 over 35. They had 2 last time in the World Cup winning squad.
But that to me isn't the problem. So the age profile of the Springboks is not a problem.
No, sorry. The age profile is one. That is a problem. But the problem, what he's doing that has caused the problem here, is trying to change seemingly everything.
10 changes from the last game.
But players,
15.
He seems to be changing both at the same time. Players and style of play.
Yeah.
And that's where I think, because I don't have a problem with him tweaking both of those. You've got to, and it's the balance between ripping it up and bringing 23 new players in. That's no good. Keeping 23 players the same, that's also no good. Completely playing the same style, that's probably no good if your players don't suit it. Completely rip it up. And it seems like he's gone a bit too far that way in this game. And he's lost. So
before you come in, JB, I'll chuck one thought in, which is I agree with what you've just said, and we've talked about this in other contexts before. The best opportunity you're going to give new players to do well and get good experience is by slotting a few players into a cohesive unit, playing the way they play. And so changing both at the same time and turning over a lot of players is not optimum. I agree with that. Equally, Malcolm Marks was dog shit. Cannot throw into a line out at the minute.
His line out has been rubbish. Even in the games that they won against New Zealand.
Yeah. And he's an amazing player. His line out,
one of the best.
Absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
Marco van Staden missed so many tackles. A double World Cup winner. scrum half, Kobus Reinach scored a great try, but him and Hendrickson, sometimes there was so many times when there was a breakdown, no scrum half there. What's going on? Arendse just did not look himself. He did not look good. Jesse Creel, how many Lecanio Am, World Cup winners, holes that Argentina just ghosted through. So there are very experienced players that did not play well.
Yeah. So
and I will say one final thing, sorry.
No, please.
Rassi Erasmus has, I don't think he'll choose to use it or even allow it to be used, but Marnie Lebok as a scapegoat. But I really dislike the amount of emphasis that's being put on one kick, because they were 17-0 up and they should have put that game to bed.
I actually fell asleep because it was late at night. It's about 20 minutes to go. And I woke up and I heard the criticism of Morning Littlebach, and I assumed that he missed more kicks, but he missed one kick, did he?
He did also miss one kick to touch.
Okay.
Penalty kick, which he put too deep, and as a result, lost a 5-metre line-up.
Yeah, look, it's not on him, right? So the way I look at it is kind of exactly as you two have already said. You change the players or you change your system, but don't change your players on your system.
You can't change everything all at once.
Yeah, well, why would you do that? So go with your 35-year-olds or wherever they are, and then just slowly change things bit by bit by bit, if that's what you want to do. But we spoke about this last week to a certain degree, and we said that he's future-proofing his team because, I don't know, rule changes. My argument would be, you've just won two World Cups, and you've won it with brute force, physicality, and unbelievable effort in defence. Stick to that, right? It's not going to go out of fashion anytime soon. And then slowly rotate the players into that. This idea of offloading, why? I mean, they obviously were doing something very well because they went ahead early on.
They looked amazing.
They looked great.
First 15 minutes or so.
Well, I'll say that the props coming through are very good, but they're not as good as the crop that they've had for the last 5-6 years. Same with front five is just, I mean, they've had the best front five in the world for 6 years.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as good at the next World Cup or beyond.
Well, I mean, it might be comparable. Because I think Vincent Cox got a few more years.
He's 34, isn't he, Vincent Cox?
Oh, is he that old?
I think Vincent Cox 34.
Yeah,
Franz Malherbe is
actually
32, 33, or something
so
like that.
I thought Vincent Cox was young. Was the younger?
Stephen Kitsoff keeps getting injured. I'm not sure he's going to be he'll be back for too long.
And he must be 32, 33.
Yeah.
But also,
Bongi and Badambi's 32. Malcolm Marks is maybe the one. He's about 29 years of age. He might be the one of the existing front row. Him and Oxenche. Him and Oxenche, but the backup's not at all. And the second rows, there is a big drop off from the players they've had and the players they have coming through.
But I just, ultimately, I just wouldn't worry about that so much. I just feed them into that machine. Now, there's something going. They're basically playing with volatility, aren't they? They're loosening everything up. They want more possession. They want to run it more. They want to offload it more. That creates risk. Risk is volatility. You can see that in the score. Yep. You can see them letting Argentina into a game, which the old South Africa would have just beat them to death. You take off someone like Pollard. I mean, what do they do? Take off Pollard, bring on Lebec. Those are two very different players.
He was gassed, though. Pollard was. He looked dead. Well, it was 36 degrees, and he looked ruined.
Well, then, if you take off Pollard, bring on the next most similar player in that position, Ebenezer. You'll probably be in a better situation. At least it's a statement of intent. But yeah, that's what they should be doing. I think coaches England did this for a little while. I don't know if you remember. England were winning everything just before the World Cup. And then they thought, let's revolutionise the game. We'll just have backs with no numbers, or everyone will interchange. Or no, the game is the game. Stick to physicality, stick to set piece, stick to ferocious defence. And if someone unpicks you like that, it'll be 1 in every 8 games, and that's fine.
But I guess like you said there, go back to doing what they've done before, and the Springboks of old wouldn't have let Argentina in that. The point I made a few weeks ago was, this is what South Africa have done repeatedly. So of the now 12 years that the Rugby Championship in its current format has been running, South Africa have won one of them. 1 in 12 of them.
And they're going to win this one.
That was 2019. They will win this one. Yeah. But they've won one. So even winning this year is actually out of the ordinary for them because they have experimented more.
Yeah.
And that it's not one or the other, but they have won 2 World Cups with that more experimental approach.
The only other thing I'd say about them, right, the only real positive, well, it's not real positive, there's nothing you don't already know, but some of their backs are absolutely remarkable. Like, they are mean, there's some of the most incredible talent, I think, to ever set field on a rugby field. And if they can sort of utilise that brutality and then the cutting edge of that of those backs,
well, that's what they're going for.
That might be the way forward. But that is not the same as being reckless. That's not the same as offloading. That's not the same as forgetting that your number one job as a winger now is not to finish tries, it's to kick chase.
Well, think about those 2 games against New Zealand. They won them both in the last 20 minutes
with brute force.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then they're never going to stray too far from that. But what you identify is right. The back line that they can and will end up putting out in 2027 is frightening,
isn't it? It could be one of the best backlines of all time, and that includes. So I was thinking about this before we came down to the basement. I think the centre partnership with the most natural talents.
Turn the mic round.
My head round even. The most natural talent in both ability, physicality, and skills are probably the current All Blacks centres. Not saying they're the best centres, not saying they're the best pairing. Just in terms of sheer physicality and skill, it's probably them. But I think South Africa could actually top that. I mean, I think that they're maybe not in terms of skill.
The starting that they've had in 2019 and 2023 with Diolandi in both of them and Creel in one and Lucanio Am in the other, that's a hell of a centre partnership as well. They're up there.
There's there's lads who aren't even included, like Moody and
Esterhuizen.
There's just loads. There's loads of them.
Mm-hmm. The two young lads at the Sharks coming through, Hooker and Julius. Watch out for those two. They're awesome.
Yeah. So just
someone like Bernard Jancy van Rensburg, who's an incredible talent.
Not even needed.
Wouldn't be anywhere near the Springbok team.
Yeah. Bundyaki for Ireland. I don't know why I brought him up with South Africa. He's New Zealander. Sorry. Ignore that.
He wouldn't be anywhere near the South Africa team.
He would be in the South Africa team, or he'd be close. He'd be 1A and 1B with Diolande. I suppose the one thing we haven't mentioned, which we should, and it'd be remiss if we didn't say, fair play Argentina. Vamos.
Especially watching their first 15 minutes.
It was done.
Scrum was getting absolutely destroyed, and Gajo, his ankle was getting strapped after 5 minutes, and then he got completely destroyed at a couple of scrums, and South Africa had 2 walk-in tries. I thought this was going to be...
Massive holes, Fassi through one, Creel through another.
80 points. I thought it was going to be absolute one-way traffic.
Yeah.
And boy, did they come back.
Oh, my word.
That first half of rugby was dynamite.
It was awesome. 4 tries they then scored. 17-0 down, scored 4 tries. A lot of it was that shape. It was that classic shape. And Felipe Contepomi's come from Leinster, and it looked like Leinster when they were really, and Ireland when they were really in their pomp a couple of years ago.
Do you think there is there's a couple of players in there, and the ones I'm thinking of are
Chocobaras?
Yes.
Mateo Carreras?
Yes. And no.
Malia?
Chocobaras, Malia. Do you think there's just some sort of strut that they have? They've forgotten how to lose now. And I think that can be infectious across the entire team.
Well, it's certainly not Mateo Carreras who's got that infectious energy.
Newcastle and Bayonne.
But those two. I mean, Mateo Carreras was also superb, but those two, Malia and Chocobaras, played in such a good Toulouse team, and then playing like that.
Of course, you think they're going to win. They win every time they set foot on a field. It's second nature.
This boy, Albanos.
He looked great.
Yeah,
he looked
very
great
good.
Again, second half against Australia.
I don't even know. I didn't know why they were changing it, because Santiago Carrero has been so good and so important, and they bring him in, and he's dynamite as well.
Yeah, it's good. Halfback's been a bit of an issue for them, but I love the bravery, the way they were willing to go back 30 metres in territory to get the ball to the edge to do their damage. And then once they'd got to the edge a couple of times and South Africa thought, we've got to watch this, then holes appeared in the middle and Oviedo starts busting through at will. Chocobares goes through holes. It's just awesome.
I like Oviedo. I really like him.
Was he Italian? One of the best stories I've heard was from Tim Swinson when I went up to visit Glasgow. Is that either Italian or an Argentine winger? Who was the guy who was playing for Glasgow? Big old winger, handsome chap.
Leonardo Sarto.
Sarto, yeah.
Yeah.
That rings a bell, yeah.
And you'll remember this because you were actually at the game. Do you know when Leicester Tigers went up there?
Yes.
And they got absolutely
smashed.
Panned,
yeah. He got a hat-trick, I think.
He got a hat-trick, right? And apparently before the game, he turned around to Tim Swinson and goes, they are Tigers, we have no chance. And scored a hat-trick. Yes, it can be infectious.
And see, he's Italian, so he's never had that problem of infectious.
Right, well, I'll tell you what. Let me just draw the parallel between the two Rugby Championship games, because South Africa was 17-0 up and absolutely cruising. New Zealand were 21-0 up and absolutely cruising. Yep. What on earth happened?
Yep. Yeah, well, New Zealand, 21 after about 16 minutes.
Yeah.
They're going to make 100 here. This is actually going to be 100 points.
It was embarrassing how easy it was for them to score.
Yeah. And then it just completely flipped. And after that fourth try, well, it was...
Bloody hell, I had no idea what the score was. I have no idea about this game whatsoever.
It was 21-0 up, 15 minutes, as he said. Yeah. Three tries, but just so easy. The speed of ball from New Zealand was brilliant.
And there was a couple of turnovers in there where they moved the ball and just walked in.
Australia put no breakdown pressure on. New Zealand was just like a team run through.
Yeah. A team run through for the first team against the under 10s.
Yeah. It was awful for Australia. You're thinking this is absolutely dreadful. And I guess you have to credit Australia again, but you have to ask serious questions about New Zealand.
More questions about. So they have ended up winning this game, but another game where they've been in the lead and they probably should have lost, and they didn't score. I don't know. After 30 minutes, there was their final. They got 3 points after 30 minutes.
No, I think they scored the first penalty of the second half, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it. So after 30, they scored. They were 28 points up after 30 minutes, and they scored 3 points for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Imagine.
And they haven't scored a single point in the final 20 minutes in the entire Rugby Championship.
Which is the inverse of what it normally is.
Exactly that. When you think of New Zealand in their 2011 to 2015, how many times did you go, all right, they're just going to hit the accelerator, they're going to shift through the gears in the last 20 minutes and just blitz a team and either come back from behind and win or just open up a 20, 30-point lead?
Wales or Scotland are within 7 points until the 60th minute and they end up losing by 40.
Yeah. Let's just see how Scott Robertson goes, but I'm very much looking forward to Argentina finishing second in the Rugby Championship, if they can do that. So currently they're on, is it 14 points? Have I made that up?
Good question. Let's see if I can get the table up. But yeah,
they've got 3 wins and a losing bonus point or 2. So yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, they need. If they beat South Africa, South Africa still win, don't they? I think because of the points difference.
Unless it goes, so South Africa are 5 points ahead. So Argentina with a bonus point win if South Africa get nothing could tie on points, and then Argentina have won the head-to-heads, which is often the first tiebreaker. I don't have in front of me what is the tiebreakers, but South Africa are going to win anyway. There's no way that Argentina are going to get 5 and South Africa are not going to get 1 or 2. So South Africa are definitely winning.
Maybe.
But New Zealand are going to get a 5-point win against Australia. So they would move to 16. And then Argentina, if they get a losing bonus point, go to 15, finish third. 2 losing bonus points.
Yeah, so the likelihood is Argentina are going to finish third.
Probably.
I'd love New Zealand to finish third. I'd love it. But, you can't have everything, can you?
It's odd what's going on, though. I just... apart from the England match where Bowden Barrett won the game in the last 20 minutes, the bench has been awful. Both Scott Robertson's use of it, or non-use of it, and the impact they've had has been dreadful.
Maybe it's a job that's too big for him.
Maybe.
I can't think of a job with much more pressure in it than that.
I'll also say discipline has for a long time been an issue. It was a massive issue before the World Cup. It was a big issue in the World Cup, and they haven't addressed it. Maybe
the only way to coach New Zealand is to be a dour, boring old man. So, the last 3 coaches have been obstinate sort of either police officers or headmasters, disciplinarians that don't look at social media, they don't read the press, they are miserable, they're all those things, and they keep their head down. The last thing you want to be is a breakdancing Crusaders coach with a load of Super Rugby titles, because the pressure, as it seems, is quite intense.
Yes, maybe that's right. And then with New Zealand, I do feel like their flux is an issue, as in you've got players who are kind of in and out. And what I mean by that is like Damien McKenzie's going to, or rumoured.
He's off to La Rochelle next season.
Yeah, La Rochelle. Ardy Surveyor's been playing in Japan. Bowden Barrett in and out of Japan. And I mean, he's 33. Will he make the next World Cup? He's still a phenomenal player. Geordie Barrett's going. They lost both their enormous second rows who are so important.
Retallick, Whitelock, and Aaron Smith.
Yeah, they lost Aaron Smith, and they brought back Sam Kane. So these are all kind of different kinds of flux, but you had Sam Kane who played and then didn't play and then has been brought back in, but not the captain anymore.
Yeah.
It feels like there's just... Normally you think of the All Blacks as kind of being very stable.
Planned.
Almost.
Yeah. They're playing
planned.
Ireland and France in November.
Yeah, they might struggle. Yeah, it's like they've already mapped out who's leaving and who's replacing them.
Yeah, exactly. It is like a planned economy. Well, actually, no, that's a terrible example because they are disastrous. So no, it's like a planned, very good multinational company.
Exactly right.
But they just seem to be kind of winging it a bit.
I think these two teams should swap coaches. I do. I think Smith's in charge of New Zealand would be exactly what they need. You know, the school mastery dull guy.
Well, who does a lot of analysis, and there was that one Australia try with the long throw over the back of the line out. They chucked a pod up at the back of the line out, but the ball went right over the top.
The first try.
Yeah, and then went to the inside centre, was it? And then inside to Nick White, inside to Fraser McRae, and awesome move. And that you watch that and go, that's Joe Schmidt.
Yeah, definitely.
So, excellent.
Speaking of interesting line-out moves and moving back to the Premiership, did you see who, this had passed me by, Saracens' new line-out coach is? And Saracens scored a couple of nice line-out plays in this game.
George Cruz?
No. He's a friend of the pod. We met him.
Nick Kennedy.
No,
hold on. It will be not Jonathan Mills.
Not Millsy.
I was thinking...
we did meet him in a pub in South Manchester.
Neil Briggs.
Not Briggsy.
You and I met him in a pub in South Manchester.
Correct.
Oh, Rob Webber. Yeah, I did notice that, actually.
Rob Webber.
He has finished Jersey, hasn't he, and found himself in Saracens.
Yeah.
Wonder what his link is there.
They had a couple of lovely trick line-out plays. One for one of Andy Christie's 2 tries, which was pod goes up. So front pod takes a few steps back, goes up, and the ball just dinked over the top to Andy Christie and Ivan Van Zyl.
Over the top of a jumping pod?
Sorry, no.
Or in front of?
Oh, in front of a jumping pod to Van Zyl, who takes the ball and just creates a 2-on-1 with, I think it was the 9 defending that channel. It was just such a simple move. Works so effectively.
I wonder if that, and I'm looking at JB when I say this, based on purely on the description, I wonder if that is one of those ones where the hooker chucks it to the pod that's in the air if someone stays at the front of the line out, but changes and will change his throw if
a live option
if the front person moves because it's quite unusual for the defending front of the line out to move from the 5 metre line, I would suggest.
Could well be.
Yeah. Okay. So you create. It's only if the front defenders follow back to create that you go for that front option.
Yeah, and if they don't go with him, then you've got an easy jump and maybe a bit interesting. I haven't seen that try, so I will have a look.
It's worth watching the highlights.
What did you make of Saracens overall?
Well, this actually was my most anticipated game of the weekend. When I thought about it, looking at the teams, like, this is going to be really interesting, actually. So, obviously, I wanted to see what the new Saracens was like. Yeah. Unsurprisingly, incredibly well-drilled and efficient. I mean, they are such a good coaching outfit. I mean, I honestly thought they'd lose. I looked at the team, I was like, they're just so many moving parts. Like, how were they going to go about doing this? It's unproven. I thought the end of last...
I'm just looking at the players, and yes, they don't... I mean, there was no Ben Earl in this one.
Well, he came off the bench.
And Nick Ezekwe off the bench.
Well, Rhys Carré never really done it for Wales. Like, since he's gone back to Wales, it's been terrible. Let's be honest.
But, I mean, Vunipola was no great shakes last year for them, though.
No, he wasn't. That's absolutely true. I mean, the whole front row last year was a disgrace.
Yeah.
Theo Dan, he's a second choice England. I mean, yeah, he's good. He's good, right? But I don't think he's great. Hugh Tizard, I don't think he's ripped up trees. I don't think he's been that good since he's been there. Andy Christie's fine. Toby Knight, not really heard of. Tom Willis, I don't think's really done much yet. I mean, he's good. Don't get me wrong, he's a good player. But we're not talking about world-class internationals here. We're talking about good players. Again, Shogun, nah. I don't know who Tobias Elliott even is. I just don't know.
So I didn't really know. He took his try very nicely. Very, very nicely. Even
Van Zaal's been starting there for the last 3 years.
He's not. If
I asked you, like, who are the top 3 scrum halves in the Premiership?
It has to be top 10. He wouldn't be in it.
He wouldn't be in it. Yeah,
exactly what I mean. Right, so you've got these guys and think, okay, well, let's see what they do. Is this finally the end of Saracens? No, it's not.
This is just the beginning.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. They just know what they're doing.
They were up against Gloucester, though.
Well, on Gloucester. So I was very negative on these guys, and we've not even done their pre-season review because we forgot.
Did we not?
No,
Did we not?
We forgot.
No,
I don't believe that.
Well, they can.
Really?
We had a Gloucester fan email us like, "Where is the review?" It's like, "Oh Christ, yeah, we didn't do it."
Sorry.
So
Sorry,
Gloucester.
I think that was one of the first ones we did. Anyway, carry on. I thought it was one we did early. Anyway,
I mean, so there are a few holes in their recruitment, and there's not very much going on in the coaching department because they don't have very, very many coaches. And they were disappointed by the injury availability of their last fly half, so they replaced him with Gareth Anscombe. And that's a fascinating choice. By any stretch, that's a fascinating choice. But should they roll the dice and this comes off, I truly believe that Thomas Williams and Gareth Anscombe could be a stroke of genius for Gloucester.
yeah, don't disagree. Actually.
Thomas Williams was head and shoulders the best player on the park, I felt. Gloucester were miles behind him. As a team, miles. He made the break at one point. There's one other guy with him. He's just more lively. He's just a very good player. If they can rally around him, they could do something. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be top 4, but they might not be bottom 2, which would be remarkable, looking at how competitive the league is.
They have got, it's a funny team, the Gloucester team, because they have got some undoubted, absolute top draw talent.
They have.
Like Mercer, like Ludlow, like Ackerman, like even Jack Clement, who came off the bench, who I
like
really
him.
like. Anscombe, Williams, Thorley's brilliant, Christian Wade, top name, Chris Harris, Lion.
Yeah. Well, the guy who
3
came
years ago, Lion.
10 minutes ago, Seb Atkinson, absolutely tore it up. Completely tore it up. So they've got all of these names.
As ever, it's depth to them. They had loads of injuries last year and they can't cope, and that's where you worry with Gloucester.
But I think I do worry about the cohesion that they've got because of the coaching. And then like things like they conceded the first try, the Shagun try, a lovely little dink chip that pops up nicely for Shagun, dink chip from Daly, and then almost immediately after, within 2 minutes, Anscombe just tries to go for a miss pass that is completely not on, straight into Ivan Van Zyl, who runs in 40 yards. And so they just compound a bit of a lucky bounce for Saracens by putting them 14-0 up immediately.
Yeah, completely agree. And when Gloucester sort of started to get their act together a bit towards the end, maybe it was just
Saracens were drifting off there.
Yeah, maybe it's just
the game was already won.
Game was already trash time or garbage time and tries, but they did look good. Christian Wade, I'm not sure that's the same guy. From what I saw, he looked remarkably ineffective.
Well, he's undoubtedly still an amazing athlete, but if he's had multiple years in the US. Living a good life, not focused on rugby, and multiple years 2 years, 18 months in Paris, living a good life, maybe not as focused on rugby as he should have been, then going to Gloucester, Gloucester is not the high life of...
No,
where was he?
It's
in
not
the
Paris,
US?
and it's not the US, is it?
Yeah, it's not anywhere in the US.
A couple of scores for Gloucester made it look more acceptable as a scoreline. In a similar way that Racing 92... scored 2 late tries.
My boys.
When they were already 52 points to 22 behind Bordeaux. They were 30 points down on Bordeaux and scored 2 tries in the last 3 minutes.
So Racing have lost another one.
52-34.
Oh, how awful.
Yeah.
Now,
how dreadful.
Farrell played the full game.
Dan Lancaster played
Wasn't kicking.
He didn't take a single shot of goal.
I think he might have a little injury.
Niggle.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there'll be a lot of niggle in the Racing camp with all those leaders leading each other.
Well, you had interesting choices. I've not seen any of this game, so can't really comment on their performance. But quite an English back line with Farrell at 10, Arundel at 11, Dan Lancaster starting at 12,
Sam James
at 15.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's some. I'd say that those are some interesting choices.
4 Englishmen in the Racing backline. That is really interesting.
Yes.
That is interesting, you're right.
Especially one of them being the coach's son who's done nothing
of any note
ever, except when he's playing for the coach's team.
I've actually met some lads that have played with him for Leeds, and they say he's really good. I mean, to be fair, he was playing for Leeds.
Yes.
You know, so I don't know what to tell you. That's my only information on Dan Lancaster.
And he played...
Dan Lancaster and Gail Ficku as a centre partnership. That's just, did not have that on my 2024 bingo card.
I think Gail Ficku just looks like, who are you? Why are you here?
What on earth is going on?
They've got Joshua Tuisova, who's played lots of rugby at 12. He's on the wing.
They've got Joshua Tuisova and they played Dan Lancaster at 12.
Yes.
That's remarkable.
They've got Sam James and they played Dan Lancaster. They've got Owen Farrell and they played Dan Lancaster at 12.
Yeah. I wonder why Dan Lancaster's getting picked.
Dan Lancaster, when he was at Leeds, it wasn't the Leeds of, say, 2010 when they were...
No, it was not. No.
Premiership level, and they had Neil Back and Stuart Lancaster coaching them. This is like Leeds from 3 years ago.
So I have no issue with sons playing for their fathers. So, for instance, should Owen Farrell find himself coaching La Rochelle or something like that, and he happens to employ Owen Farrell...
Andy Farrell should 100% pick Owen Farrell for the Lions. In my opinion.
Yeah, I mean...
assuming his form...
Yes.
Mike Ford and George Ford, I can totally see how that works.
Yeah.
If Marcus Smith dad coached, I can see how that works.
What's Diamond's son, who was the Sam Diamond?
Sam Diamond's still there, thank you very much, and does an excellent job at...
A very good press guy for sales.
More than that now, head of brand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love the story, by the way, of... Just sorry to jump around.
No.
Were you going to finish making the point?
Yeah, I was going to say...
Sorry.
But that's very different, isn't it, when your son's a world-class athlete?
Yes.
In fact, in many ways, the father is only there, particularly in maybe Mike Ford's case, because his son is the world-class athlete. Right? This is the opposite way around.
I was going to say, what a lovely story it is that... I only realised this a few weeks back when I read an article and went, what? I must be misreading this. But the lad who just completely revolutionised Bristol's social media... and is now their...
Tom Sainton.
CEO. Or not CEO, COO or whatever.
No, I think he's CEO now, isn't he?
I don't know what
he's gone through multiple roles, and now I think he's like in the top.
I know his dad was a former coach, and he's part of the kind of that aristocracy, or his family's part of the aristocracy of the club. But nonetheless, he's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's brilliant
with the social media. Can he?
He's great.
For a long time, Bears were the only people doing good social media, and they had to because they had that awful branding, an awful name, and somehow they made it work. So you've got to say, yeah, maybe he's worth his spot at what he does.
Yeah, strategically, he kind of knows what's what. So
agreed.
Anyway, that's just a nice story because he's young to be in the role he's in as well. It's cool.
But my boys, Bordeaux, Pinot, hat-trick, Biel Barret, hat-trick.
Yeah.
Good.
the top 14 table's looking good. There's only one...
Where is...
Racing are 9th. There's only three games...
Racing leadership. Where are Racing
There's 3 games gone. There's 3 games gone. 9th. There's only one unbeaten team, and that's Toulouse.
Okay.
Of course.
And there's only one winless team, and that's Perpignan.
Wow.
It's the results are bouncing back and forth. My beloved Bayonne are second bottom. I'm a little worried.
Well, it's only 3 games gone. They've only got one less win than Racing, so don't worry about it. I'll be watching Racing with interest.
Yes. Very much so. JB, you were at a game.
Yeah. Before you talk about this, I want to mark this. I want to just say, right, okay, this marks your transition.
Go on.
You're a trans rugby fan.
Oh,
because I just thought, oh my God, JB's at a game today. When I saw the messages coming through on the WhatsApp group, I was like, JB's at a match. This is like you're fully back because. There was a point where you weren't sure you were going to carry on with the podcast.
No,
because you were disillusioned with the sport and with.
Well, there's 2 things. So the number one. The number one thing was
it's great, by the way. I'm loving it.
It's all over. It's all over. Was the high tackle stuff, right?
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm still incredibly bitter about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And there should be recriminations from this. Not least, I've thought about this more and more. The lying doctor. Now, I'm sure I can get sued for that, but why not go for it, right? The lying doctor, who the RFU rolled into the RFU council, a council of fools, and he made his presentation, and not one of those idiots questioned him. 4 hours, he was saying, follow the science, follow the science, follow the science. So he's either lying, or he's stupid, or terrible at his job, or maybe all three, actually, right? And he is the RFU doctor giving the presentation to these people to change the high tackle law, only for it to be completely rubbished by real scientists, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago? So, you know...
That didn't get nearly as much attention as it should have done, that story.
Yeah, and this is the point, right?
And by the way, so I'll spare your bacon and just say I would always go with the Occam's razor and attribute... is that the...
that's Hanlon's razor.
No, Hanlon's razor, sorry.
Is Occam's razor the simplest?
Occam's razor is the simplest solution,
Correct.
is usually the correct one, and Hanlon's razor is never attribute malice where incompetence may explain or something thereabouts.
Well, JB's razor is when you pay off doctors to be a shill for you, which is basically what this guy is, right? They basically gave him a mission. And they said, look, we need to change these laws. Go and lie to the council about medical evidence and bamboozle these stupid old men.
That's quite a long-winded razor. Let's bubble this down. Yeah, we'll work this down. JB's razor. Watch this space.
I'll come up with something a bit more snappy than that. So that's the first one. Like, why do I want to play this child's training game? And it just hasn't been enforced. I was playing this weekend.
You're right, actually.
A couple of high tackles came in, and they were called as high tackles. Like, yeah, fine, whatever.
But they would have been high tackles 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
It just hasn't happened. The whole thing is an absolute charade. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was, well, if the game is going to crumble, I want to be there to document it, because I've been saying this for a long, long time. And I think that was probably the reason that I stayed, is because I want to document the downfall of the game.
And over this period, there is partly the fact that, as you say, it's kind of as you were and it hasn't really changed.
Nope.
You get the odd referee, again, coaching my son's team, you get the odd referee at junior levels who are militant about the nipple height and below, and fine, you just deal with it. Like with any referee, you work out what their metrics are, and then you adjust to it. That's just how you go with any ref. But generally speaking, I agree with you, it hasn't changed. And as a result, you've been able to slowly but surely come back round to actually loving the sport again and getting involved as a coach again. And you went there to Sale Sharks.
I did go to Sale Sharks. The first time I've been Sale Sharks in over a year. Now, that's just because of other commitments and whatnot. Nothing to do with Sale Sharks. I really enjoyed myself. Now, the first thing I'd say is, I actually watched the game, not with the press. I took my daughter along, so I watched it from the north stand with the hardcore fans. And,
is that the terrace bit at one end?
Terrace bit, because you put them on your shoulders and whatnot. And it is bloody hard to watch a professional game of rugby from behind the sticks.
If you're not up particularly high. I think if you've got a good vantage point.
I mean, you get a good view from a coaching perspective there, but not...
I completely disagree. I was right up top, and I just found it really hard to follow.
You need to get back to your normal spot, up on the gantry with the coaches.
Yeah, on the gantry. You can see everything, and that's where you need to be. But it was very, very difficult to follow. But this is an interesting game. So, first thing I'm going to talk about is I was looking at these two teams, and there were some guys, in fact, a lot of guys who looked absolutely massive. Some in a good way, some in a bad way.
Ernst van Rijn.
So we're going to play a game, good way or bad way.
Okay, fine.
So I'm going to mention the player, and you're going to say if it's a good way,
good or bad,
or a bad way.
Okay.
So they're all massive. Let's start with some easy ones, and we'll get progressively harder.
Or softer.
TT Lamasatelli.
Bad
way.
Massive.
He looked
in a bad way.
Enormous, and he had a tough.
I wouldn't say it to his face though.
First 20.
Why? You can run away. Ernst van Rijn.
But I'm going to say you think bad, but he just looked massive.
Yeah. Big lump, but not that much definition.
Here's an interesting one for you. Nyakalevu.
Explaining football to the friend who's just there for the nachos? Hard. Tailgating from home like a pro with snacks and drinks everyone will love? An easy win. And with Instacart helping deliver the snack time MVPs to your door, you're ready for the game in as fast as 30 minutes. So you never miss a play or lose your seat on the couch or have to go head-to-head for the last chicken wing. Shop Game Day faves on Instacart and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 grocery orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Other fees and terms apply.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Good. Athletic.
I didn't really notice, so I'm going to say good.
Spectacular.
Yeah. He's a handsome man.
Goodness me.
He's a handsome man.
He will sell some calendars. This guy is huge. Lennox and Yanwu.
Oh, yeah, that's good. He's stacked.
He's in good, but he's like a.
He's got bigger in the last year.
He's massive.
He's like a diminutive Tom Hendricks.
There's nothing diminutive.
No.
I diminutive Tom Hendricks. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hendrickson.
Yeah. Still massive.
Hendrickson. So he's absolutely stacked, but he's not actually that big.
How big is he?
I'm going to.
He looks like a house.
That's like Ollie Lawrence is stacked, but not actually massive.
Yeah. Hendrickson is like that, and Yanwu. So he's 5'11", and he's listed as 100 kg.
So he's pretty big at 5'11".
Yeah,
16 stone. Yeah, best part of.
Yeah.
And the last one, Tom Curry, looked massive.
I'm going to assume good, because he always looks great.
Oh yeah, good.
Well, he was standing next to his brother, and I thought he looked a little bit soft.
Really?
Yeah, he did. But can I just say, describing these players' body shapes is in no way a representation of how they played.
No.
Because even though I thought he looked a bit out of shape compared to Ben Curry, that boy was on a death mission. Like those. Well, the way I've forgotten how hard he plays.
He's nasty,
I don't know if you saw this, but he got knocked out by Lennox and Yanwu's hip.
Past his HIA.
Yeah, past his HIA, but then went off at half time or just after.
Precautionary, apparently, so we're told.
But he was. I don't think he should have had a HIA because he was out. When you watch that again, the way he hit the deck was there was no control of anything as he hit the deck. He was out.
Yeah,
which is never nice to see. And the rules, as applied and rightly so, are if you go out, you don't need a HIA.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, those are the rules, and that's what should have happened. However, I was quite happy to watch him play for the next 30 minutes because you forget how hard that they hit. And he just goes hunting for work. Like, tackles that aren't his, he will come across two. In fact, he did come across two lads. There was a double tackle, and he makes it into a triple tackle just because he's just a nasty defender.
Well, in terms of like bravery and putting your head in the spokes, Will Evans. Oh my goodness.
So, did you watch the game, Tim?
Yeah.
The reason I asked that is because I couldn't see much. So the way I viewed the game was Sale were destroying Harlequins physically. And I thought, I've not seen anything of two of my favourite flankers, who Will Evans and Kenningham. Did they do anything on TV?
So it looked to me like, I don't know if something happened to Kenningham, but in the last 20 minutes, he missed so many tackles or didn't. There was one where he got Jean-Luc Dupré, held his leg, and Dupré just walked out of it. There was another he got boshed backwards. So Kenningham, I was like, oh, this feels very un-Kenningham-like.
Yeah, he's a cracking player.
Will Evans, however, wow.
So the two things to note, incredible bravery from Evans, both in the tackle and also putting his head in places that it should never be even near. What I would say, one of the most noticeable things from Will Evans was he appeared to be getting quite chopsy at the referee throughout that game.
Agreed.
There was a few times, if I was a Quins fan, I'd be saying, calm it down there because you are going to get marched back. If I was a Sale fan, I'd be saying, keep trying. But yeah, he's a hell of a brave player because he's not big compared to some of those boys.
He made some big plays, kept them in the game a couple of times.
Now, I mean, there's two ways to look at Sale Sharks today. Number one is they managed to contain a very dangerous Harlequins side. That's not nothing because we've seen Harlequins destroy teams, well, like Bordeaux, for instance. So if you try and play a certain way against them, you can get unstuck. Sale, I mean, they defended great. I mean, they did defend great. They conceded 11 points against Harlequins. That's pretty good.
The conditions helped that because it was a pretty miserable day. But they did defend great.
But there's simply no end product. There is no end product with what they do. So they started moving the ball around a little bit better second half towards the end. But again, 12 points. Like they need
12.0 tries, 1 try to 0 in Harlequins' favour.
Yep.
Which that for you is nearly the perfect scoreline, isn't it?
It's only the perfect scoreline, right? If the turnovers are conceded because you're getting absolutely hammered, not because everyone in your backline is playing like Robert Dupree. So they like Robert Dupree at Sale so much that they've got their brand new centre, Nigel Avu, and managed to persuade him to play in exactly the same way. Like, this guy, was he not Fijian captain for a little while?
Yeah.
Is he not Fijian captain?
At the World Cup.
At the last World Cup, yeah.
Just between the two of them, they can neither catch nor pass, which is remarkable for two professional centres, and they paired them together. So that is obviously the quality that they're looking for at Sale Sharks. The pack, though, I mean, the handling is terrible. Jean-Luc Dupree, 2 knock-ons in about 3 seconds. He seems to have exactly the same skill set as his brother.
What amazing offloader!
Amazing, yeah. Amazing offloader, can run over anything. Great defender, brilliant without the ball, and loves to throw the ball on the floor effectively. But the pack is mighty. I mean, I thought that Bevan Rod and Apoka Fajor might come unstuck. No, not one bit. Not one bit.
The scrummaging, particularly on in that first half, was superb.
Yeah.
Superb.
Yeah,
it did look to me, and I'm not a front rower, it did look to me a bit like Bevan Rod was going in at Lamasatelli.
Looks a bit like that to me.
He got away with it, play the referee, and if it's working, keep doing it.
Agreed.
To me, do you know the way that all the Premiership teams are trade-offs? Sale must spend all their time defending, and this isn't even a joke, defending and doing set piece. I think that's what they must be doing.
Sanderson is known for having a preference for those things.
And if that's what you're good at, that's what you should do. And then saying to George Ford, can you handle the attack? Well, how long have I got? 10 minutes.
Well, the closest they got to scoring a try was when they engineered a really nice position, and George Ford just overcooked the kick to Roebuck, but that because he was wide open.
Check your phone.
No, it was not my son there.
It was not your son?
It was not.
He's lying to you. He's lying to you.
Bearing in mind, when I got home at half-time, I'd been listening to the game in the car, and I got home and watched the second half. He was sat at the kitchen table. So I don't. So JB said hello to my son, who was a ball boy at the Sale game. Apparently, shouted Louis, and the guy turned around and waved.
Yeah, literally. Yes,
and he was also at my kitchen table at half time.
And my daughter, right when she got home, said we saw Louis, we saw Connie's brother. You need to do some further investigations here, Tim. He is winding you up.
His reply was, "I was not there. Maybe I have an evil doppelganger?" ?
Honestly, Dad. Honestly, does it say honestly? Is he protesting too much on that?
He was doing his maths homework.
Oh, okay.
Of course, he was.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I mean, that is one thing, right? So I was away. Me and my wife and daughter went down to see my new niece, and so we were away Friday and Saturday night. So my son's at home on his own. He couldn't come down because he had a job yesterday and he was playing rugby today. And I get home and he's doing his maths homework at the kitchen table.
Suspicious.
I know.
That is very suspicious.
There's a bit of me that first went, I'm slightly disappointed, but then I thought that probably means he's had a really good couple of days.
Yeah, something else.
Hang on a second, you don't even take maths.
He's feeling incredibly guilty for something.
Yeah.
So well done, Sale, for eking out that win.
12-11, same score as the Rugby World Cup final. You can have good games, low scores.
Yeah. Well, there was another quite good game that was a low score. Oh, sorry, do you want to make any more?
I was just going to say on Harlequins, because obviously I got to see them quite a bit.
Terrible kit.
Well,
is that what you were going to say?
You can't really see the kit until you see it on TV. And
it's horrible.
Oh my word,
it's horrible.
Although there are certain kits now that are accepted to be universally awful, and we celebrate them for it.
If they're going for awful, then they've achieved their aim, and well done. I'll celebrate that fact.
But so,
in fact, they should say, here's our home kit, away kit, and our sit kit.
Our awful kit.
Yeah.
But we know for the longest time, probably the worst kit on the planet is Ospreys. it's celebrated now for being the worst kit. It has no rhyme or reason or colour palette. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes it incorporates green.
The plain black
red.
Ospreys is good, but their change one, yeah.
No, even like the black one, they usually have like hints of, or like secondary tones of colours that make no sense. And also, we acknowledge that it's to go with sleeve tattoos and that kind of thing. So there is some logic in what
Exeter's European kit.
Exeter's European kit is notorious for being disgusting.
Leicester Tigers always have a disgusting kit.
Every other year, though, isn't it?
Well, usually they can't help but have a third kit that is a horrific.
Foul. Yeah. Harlequins, for the longest time, have had some of the most disgusting kits.
Disgusting. They have some brilliant kits.
Some brilliant kits.
They've had some of the best and some of the worst.
They have, yeah.
Well, because their home kit is so classic. They can't because there's no design graduate who wants to mess around, because you simply can't mess around with the quarters, can you? You can't just one day come in and say, oh, we're having hoops. That's why they put all this effort into their change kits. They've had the map of London, which was disgusting. They've had so many examples of change kits which are just horrific.
Is it Bristol went avant-garde last season and nailed it. That kind of
what was it?
It had like it was almost like a pixel design style bear on the front. No. It should be bad.
It is bad.
But Bristol nailed it.
Oh,
having a mad kit. It was very like kind of. It's what Stade Francais would do.
The only people that have ever nailed the mad kit is Stade Francais when they first released the pink kit. That's iconic.
La Rochelle's this season is a bit Stade Francais, and it's lovely.
I do like the.
What colour is it?
It's yellow, black, and yellow, black, and white, but it's kind of got loads of C type pictures on it. It's got waves and all sorts of stuff. It's a bit Stade Francais, and they've nailed it. From a distance, it just looks like a really cool kit. Close up, you see all the design, and it still looks cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I think Will Porter's going to be taking over from Danny Kerr. I think Jared Evans is miles off being a replacement for Marcus Smith, just miles off. I don't know. I mean, again, I didn't see it on TV, so you could get a different perspective if you watch the game.
No.
Okay, good.
No.
And maybe the most disappointing thing I've seen today, and maybe in a few years, was the debut of a player that I think is one of the greats of all time. Lee Halfpenny. He was solid in the high ball, but his kicking was all out of sorts.
His first kick was miles away.
The one he got through was ugly, but went through.
Like, this is one of the world's greatest ever kickers. Like, genuinely, amazing player.
I'll give you some breaking news. I don't think he will be a pundit when he retires. He's a lovely bloke and a legend of a rugby player.
Yeah, I think you're right.
No. I kind of want to go, come on, Lee, open up a little bit. He had a whole chunk at the end of the game. Just come on. Say something that's not cliche, Lee. Go on.
Yeah, and he just doesn't. He's not. A lot of the Welsh lads are not great communicators. I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say. But yeah, I was disappointed. I think it might be the first time I've seen him live. I might have seen him for Wales once. I might have. But yeah, I was hoping I'd see something a bit more.
Just on kits, you mentioned the Bristol kit from last year.
Yeah.
So I searched for Bristol kit from last year, and I've seen this that I don't believe I've ever seen before, and it's lovely.
Oh, the balloon!
I have not seen that one. Oh, that's because they've got the balloon fiesta.
Yeah, the balloon party. Yeah, balloon fiesta. It's really nice, really vivid.
That's very cool.
The reason I've never seen it is because it was their 23-24 European kit. So
right.
Never watched them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Bristol
That's
Rugby
lovely.
Kit 2023. Come on, where's the white? It's the white. Bristol have gone blue and white hoops, by the way. They've gone really old school.
Good. That's exactly what they should do. I think every team should have
one, Tim.
Yeah. It's actually, when you see it it doesn't look good with a pair of jeans, but as a kit, it looked awesome.
Which kit does look good with a pair of jeans?
I totally agree with you.
That's a great
They're
point.
not designed for jeans. And do I think? No, I don't like it.
I like it.
I quite like that.
Here are the rules, right? Unless you've got a block colour or a reason not to have hoops, you should have hoops. So, example of someone who doesn't need to have hoops, Harlequins, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Right? And then your other kit has to be white, unless your home kit is white.
But Bath should be in hoops, Leicester should always be in hoops.
Exeter can be in hoops, no reason why.
Sale Sharks, Sale were in hoops before they were Sale Sharks.
Yep. They had a change kit a few years ago.
Northampton are hoops. Exeter could be hoops.
Yep. And then if you want a change kit, you can have an all-white one. Everyone has an all-white one, so we don't need to worry about it. Because after all, we are in the English League. And then away you go.
Or an all-black one.
Or an all-black one, yeah. If you want an all-black and all-white, or one colour, I don't mind. That's what I was going to say. Did you hear a few weeks ago, I don't know if you covered it on the podcast, that the Premiership are thinking of combining their kit rights?
They've only talked about that that's only come to light since our last podcast.
No, I heard about that a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
But
maybe it was preliminary conversations, but yeah.
So that's quite exciting, actually, because if you're into your kits, the NFL do this, and they have one contractor for the entire league, which means they can coordinate things. So they have the Colour Clash weekend, or they have, if there's some sort of big event, a Jubilee, or whatever the hell it is. And I think that's got the potential to be a really cool thing for the league. I mean, they could have Classic Hoops weekend. That'd be great.
And
Classic weekend. Oh.
Classic Hoops, and then you could have Stuart Hooper coming out as a pundit for that weekend.
Now that's a guy that should run a major supermarket chain.
Get Michael Hooper up to talk about it as well.
Stuart.
Yeah. Hoops and Hoops.
Oh, Michael and
Classic Hoops weekend.
Classic Hoops. I like that. One last game.
Yeah, so another low-scoring game.
I love this game. I absolutely loved it.
So there was a few drop balls throughout the game, but the close finish was quite incredible, particularly with the red card, followed by the yellow card, followed by the pushover try from Leicester Tigers.
Yeah. So, first things first, I think Nicky Smith is going to be a phenomenal signing for Tigers.
Yeah. Already looks good.
Yeah.
He was put in the enormous, spoke about at north of 150 kg, Aaron Painter.
Now, I'm very careful to criticise guys who play professional rugby who look like Aaron Painter, purely because if you look at some of the top weightlifters on the planet, they are absolutely disgustingly built, but they are unbelievable athletes.
Once you're in the open category, there is basically all calories are good calories. You need to be in a constant surplus.
There is a case with scrummaging where technique is important, but then you get a bit tired, and then mass moves mass.
So I think Nicky Smith was a product of Tigers playing Ospreys either last year or the year before, and is it Jake Kerr the hooker? He is a hooker. Who am I thinking of? The tight head, the young tight head who's played for England.
Joe Hayes.
Joe Hayes getting absolutely smashed. I mean, smashed by Nicky Smith. I think that's when Tigers decided to sign Nicky Smith.
I think it's a great signing.
He demolished Aaron Painter.
Yeah,
and Aaron Painter is they were
he might
have 20-30 kilograms on him.
Yeah,
Will Goodrich-Clark, even bigger, by the way.
I think
big
more
boy. When he came on, big old boy.
Is he?
Oh, he's a loose head.
He's loose head.
He's Joseph for Scots, not small.
Yeah. Well, apparently he's even bigger.
He's even bigger than Painter.
Yeah. So they say that the extra pack can get over 1,000 kilograms.
Not if you're playing Richard Capstick in the second row, it can't.
Yes, it can't then. But Nicky Smith was superb.
He was.
I think that's going to turn Tigers into an absolutely formidable side.
But it was interesting because that first half, so half time it was 3-0 to Tigers, and Tigers did not fire a shot in that first half.
Nope.
It was. I'd love to see the possession and territory stats, but it was all Exeter for the whole of that first half. And they got nothing, not a single point to show for it. And that little snap drop goal from Shilcock just before half-time put Leicester in the lead.
When you look at the lineups and just jump into the end of the match, Exeter will have to watch that and go, we need to learn how to close a game out, because they should never have been in a position to lose that game. And not just because he's a very good player and would have had good interventions on the game, but purely from a game management point. Henry Slade's on that field. They never lose that match.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
And when you look at the players and you take Slade out of it, Ben Hammersley, Joe Hawkins, Harvey Skinner, Faye Waboso, Woodburn, Hodge, Armstrong as your backline, there's a
lot of intent there.
A lot of intent, a lot of good athletes and stuff, but rugby IQ, brains, nous, experience, none of it.
Not a lot of experience.
Yeah.
Well, Hammersley only showed up last year. So you think about it.
He only played 6 minutes as well.
Yeah.
Because of his injury.
Yeah.
But,
Failed head injury.
He showed up last year.
In fact, look at the whole...
Faye Waboso.
Look at the whole pack.
Only showed up last year. And then they've got who's this new lad which they love? Paul Brown Bampo?
Bampo.
Has only played pre-season for them.
Yeah.
So everything you say, Tim, is absolutely correct. Loads of talent.
They should never have lost that game.
Yeah.
That could haunt them, that match later on in the season. Having said how important home wins are massive, Leicester Tigers on the flip side, fair play for the manner of win and grinding it. And I kind of like Michael Checker, what he had to say after the game, just like that we're basically, if I was paraphrasing what he said, it's like we're gonna have a really good time enjoying this one, have some beers and get to know each other, because that's how we're going to come together as a squad.
He's absolutely right.
That's brilliant, because if you can get those fundamentals in, that's good foundations. The bit that I wanted to see from this Leicester Tigers team that we saw almost nothing of was we barely saw any of their outside backs.
No.
The most notable things...
Parise you saw a lot of.
Well, we saw his yellow
everywhere.
card, and we saw a couple of big hits, and Kata, we saw his red card and a couple of other big hits. But other than that, genuinely, when I watched the end of the game and I saw, I think it was Freddie Stewart hugging Josh Bassett, I was like, Josh Bassett has played Josh Bassett wearing 14. Josh Bassett had played 80 minutes of this game. I wasn't even aware he was on the pitch.
Yeah, there's been quite a few performances this week where I just didn't know that those boys were even playing. And that'd be one of them. But it does tell you the difference between how Leicester have set up and how Exeter have set up. You know, Bassett is there to kick chase. He's very good at that. Hassel Collins is there to kick chase. I mean, that's what they want. That's what they want to do. I love that. And I don't know about you, but it looks like Kata and Parise have a certain mindset about them.
They do. Well, they got one red card and one yellow card in this game between them. There might be some more of that as the season goes on.
That could be my favourite centre pairing already. That could be my favourite centre pairing
if they keep playing like that.
Just I know Dan Kelly was on the bench, but just to come back to one of the things you said at the very start, that is one thing that does concern me. I know you've said Anyanwu was good, and what's his name? Atkinson came off the bench at Gloucester. Hawkins was 12 for Exeter. Kata and Parisi with the centres on show there. So it's then.
Well, Com said something interesting about Dan Kelly. They said he's replacing Parise, who's a bit of a battering ram, with Dan Kelly, more of a distributor. I was like, what? That Dan Kelly? Dan Kelly's not a distributor in any world.
No, not really. Not really.
But yeah, I quite like the look of. I quite like look of Tigers.
Yeah.
Good to see Jack Van Portfleet back too.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to miss Visa half as much as we originally thought, because I think what's his name, Hatherall will step in nicely because he's massive.
Yeah, I still think you lose that just pure aggression.
You lose something, don't you? But
yeah,
you just do something different.
I mean, there is a reason he's starting for the Springboks this weekend.
There is.
Takes a fairly handy player to do that.
Ross Vincent looked like he had a good game.
I like Ross Vincent.
Yeah, he's dynamic, isn't he?
He's not that. Yeah, he's very dynamic. He's not that massive, considering he's a back row. But I kept thinking with that blue scrum cap on.
Are you going to say the same thing as me?
Possibly.
Former winger who's gone to La Rochelle.
Yeah, Jack Noel.
I was
like, what's Jack Noel doing?
He runs like him too.
He runs. I bet he's not that dissimilar. He's a little bit bigger.
Well, isn't this exactly what Eddie Jones said? Jack Noel is his third choice number 7. Yeah. Basically, meaning that Ross Vincent would have been Eddie Jones' starting
winger.
Winger, yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about kits and stuff, I'm watching, just keeping an eye on the top 14 match. It's,
feel free
Stade
to
Francais Toulon. Look how pink that Stade Francais pink kit is.
It's incredibly pink. It is
very
pink.
That
it's
is
seriously
It isn't more
pink.
like a fuchsia.
Yeah. It's aggressively pink.
What is the current score?
The fuchsia used to be a club in Manchester.
It's Stade Francais 10, Toulon 14.
Oh, that's the a bit of Stade Francais news from this week, that Paul Gustard, friend of the pod, Paul Gustard, is apparently on Borthwick's shortlist.
Do you know who else is on? Someone I've been talking about for flipping years.
Joel Abd.
Because he was in my university team. I was number 8 and he was my open side flanker at Bath Uni.
Because he couldn't get in at number 8.
He couldn't get in at number 8.
Yeah, exactly right.
Exactly. But he's been at Oyonnax he's head coach there. He's been at Oyonnax for a while. He was a coach at Castra, and I saw him. I worked on a game between Castra when they were playing in Dublin against Leinster in the Champions Cup, and it was a pool match. And I went over to him and had a chat to him on the pitch, and he went, and I think I might have said this on the pod before, he went, Tim, honestly, mate, we've got this 9 that is just out of this world. Dupont. He was on the bench that night.
James,
like some 17-year-old kid. Yeah. So that'd be awesome if he finally gets a gig.
I think it's weird if they go back to Gustard. I don't think you go back.
Well, Joe Alabd and Steve Borthwick used to be flatmates in Bath.
Did they?
Well,
there we go.
Gustard and Borthwick have both worked together at Saracens and England.
Every time you see a hire in rugby, you have to find the link. Very rarely is it just a completely random signing. Very rarely is it.
Particularly when he's had two coaches leave, and in ones that will be painful losses, or 3, but 2 big names, Aled Walters and Felix Jones. Having someone that he's like, he's a good mate.
I'm sure Alex Walters and him were good mates for a long time.
Yeah, they were. We worked together at Leicester. That's a fair point.
Yeah. Every single appointment in rugby tends to be, particularly in coaching, like who do they know there? What is the link?
One thing we haven't mentioned, which we should just before we end the podcast, the story is coming out today from Midi Olympique in France that the Nations Cup final, which gets underway in 2026, and the news about...
Yeah, it started in 2025, but the final will be 2026.
Correct.
So it's a 2-year.
Correct. And the... what was been said about a couple of months ago, was that 600 million quid or 800 million quid worth of money from Qatar Airways and various people like that was rejected for a finals weekend in Qatar by the English Union, the French Union, the Irish Union. But it seems there's been a bit of a reversal on that. Whilst it's not going to happen in 2026, the reports are that it will be over there in 2028. Thoughts?
So I don't have a problem with this because I don't run around with rainbow flags and make players do diversity things like wear shoelaces that they don't want to, or talk about all other sort of things. But if you do that, like say Bill Sweeney does, and most of the people that work at the RFU, you shouldn't really want to go to
the ARU.
So I've just quickly pulled up minority rights in Doha. And again, I think people in Doha can run their country exactly as they want. And if they want rugby and I want to go to Doha, I will go to Doha to watch it. But if you'd spend your time lecturing people, then maybe you shouldn't. But they don't have freedom for LGBTQ. They don't have, so women can only do certain legal things. They can work in education, but they have limited rights in things such as like family law. The list goes on and on and on. Labour rights. Doha has a significant population of migrant labourers, mostly from South Asia and Africa, who often work in construction and domestic services. So I guess we have that in common. But other than that, like... you can't be saying one thing and waving your flags about, and then on the other hand accepting money to go somewhere else, because what it tells me is everything we've been told by the RFU about this diversity and inclusion and the EDI stuff. It's all just lies. It's all just lies which they don't care about, because when it comes to it, they want the money. And I'm actually in agreement with them.
That's what I would say. Well, okay, so I'm cynical when those things come up, whilst I have no issue with any of those campaigns or points of view. I have no issue with any of that.
They shouldn't be run. Simple as that.
Well, okay. Well, my point was, I'm cynical to the fact that I think all of it's to do with money. I think the reason they're going to Doha and stuff is cash. I've got no problem with that. I think the reason they also push those campaigns is for cash. Is cash.
Yeah, you're right.
It's the same It's a different type of the same corporate cash. Ultimately, they just want cash.
Yeah, do you know, you're absolutely right. It's the same way that the same corporates that will sponsor them now for the LGBTQ plus pride nonsense which they throw up will be the exactly same corporates that will not run the same pride campaigns in Doha and UAE.
Correct.
Exactly.
There's no moral element to this. It's a cash element.
It's just basically, yeah. We know what it is. Sorry, Phil.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, that, because on one hand they're incredibly consistent, but it's only with their kind of hidden motive. Because the real motive is exactly as you say, cash. And I have no problem. None of us have any problem with that. No. If anything, I think they should do more of it, because they're losing money and the game needs more money. But then, if you're not explicit about that being your primary motive, then you end up looking inconsistent, which is exactly what they're doing when on one hand you'll be waving the rainbow flags and on the other hand you'll be going somewhere
exactly
like
that.
Doha.
It's a little bit like my frustration. I would sort of parallel it, or just a similar analogy would be the way that then the Premiership Rugby and the RFU are just not honest. They're doing what they want, which is creating a ring-fence league with no hope of anyone in a league below actually competing, but they won't actually say that's what they're doing. So they'll just kind of create a set of circumstances which ends up with that outcome, but not admitting that that's what their outcome is, and therefore they look... Well, it's not inconsistent, like Phil said, but it doesn't all marry together. I wish it was a bottom line.
They're not being transparent with that.
Just be transparent with what you want.
Just on EDI, this isn't going to go where you think it's going to go, by the way. Do you know when he's talking about that supermarket guy?
Yeah.
He had a slide about DEI in his supermarket, which he runs. And what I actually liked, and it just reminded me of an email that we got, was that their DEI is purely around prisoners and people in rehabilitation, which I'm absolutely all for. And I'm pretty sure we've got an email somewhere about prison rugby, which was sent in this week.
Yeah, that rings a bell, actually.
Which you might want to relook at.
Let me have a look. Hold on a second.
While you're doing that, you just reminded me. I drove to Wilmslow today, drove past Style Prison.
Which I've been to for lunch.
Well, yeah, I was just going to reference it because I see it every time I go past and think, I need to go there. They run a prison restaurant called The Clink.
They do.
And it's for those who are not living in South Manchester or not from South Manchester, Style, borders Wilmslow, is kind of very affluent territory, footballer-type territory around there. So I imagine the restaurant's very good.
Well, I've eaten there, right? So when I went there, I didn't believe it was a prison. I thought it was like a National Trust thing. So
it's right opposite Quarrybank Mill, which
it is.
Which is National Trust.
It's all Style, isn't it? It's like it's Style. It's ridiculous.
It's prisoners working in the kitchen.
No, it's a proper prison.
It's
actually
within the prison.
Yeah, it's within the prison, right? So
it's rehabilitation, learning skills.
I think it is. I think it's a women's prison.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think it is.
So I didn't know that.
I think, right? So I went in, and all of a sudden we're getting mocktails. Like, this is cute. Like, can I have a cocktail? Of course you can't, can you? And then it clicked. This is why we're here. We're here because... so I didn't pay attention to any of the flyers, any of the information. I wasn't even sure the prison was a real prison. I thought it was like a National Trust thing. And then it all sort of clicks in place. Oh, right, the people serving us are actually either on release or whatever they are. But yeah, it's really interesting, actually.
It's a nice prison. So, like, you drive past it and the buildings look a bit like that, kind of a red brick mock Tudor effect. It's not like a normal looking prison.
Well, then you get in and you see all of the security features, of which there are many.
I imagine, yeah. So I need to go.
So we had a email.
Women prisoners.
Found it.
Got it here. It's quite long, but yeah. Tim, Phil, JB, a happy opening weekend of the Premiership Rugby. This is from Jack Wright. Long-time listener, first-time emailing, love the pod, blah. Jack works for the Saracens Foundation as a development manager.
That's it.
For reducing the reoffending team. And as part of the role, oversees a project called Get On Side, an 8-week rugby and personal development course delivered in 2 prisons, the Mount in Hemel Hempstead and Her Majesty's Youth Offenders Institute in Feltham. He said, you may remember the World Cup squad of 2003 starring in the show Grand Slammers ahead of the World Cup last year. Yeah, I didn't watch that, but I did know that, yeah. So it was a load of the 2003 lot in a prison together. I don't want to say that ITV stole our idea, but they coincidentally chose one of the prisons we deliver in and worked with the rugby team that we coach weekly. As you discussed in the pod, a lot of the rugby world seems incessant on tearing each other down recently and apologising for the game we all love. I'm emailing to shout about some of the amazing things that rugby is capable of and appeal to your listenership to see if they would like to be part of our amazing project. We take a group of around 20 offenders on each course where we deliver personal development, life skills sessions each morning, and then they train for 2 hours each afternoon. Nearly all the lads we work with have never played or sometimes even seen a game of rugby before, so it can be a great opportunity to be active, learn new skills, and work in a team environment. As we all know, nationally, the rate of reoffending within a year of release in the UK is at around 58%. Get On Side graduates' reoffending rate is 15%. Surprisingly, rugby can do some good, it seems, as well. As part of the course, we try to invite as many visitors in as possible. This helps to reinforce our message that there are people on the outside who are willing to work with, talk to, and play in the same team as an ex-offender. Being in prison is not a dead end. One of the best days of the course is our touch tournament. The first 3 weeks of the course...
Sorry, you've lost me now.
The first 3 weeks of the course are all to build to the touch tournament. This is a touch rugby tournament planned and executed by the lads on the course. They go from never passing a ball to playing in, refereeing, and scoring their own touch rugby tournament. Obviously, event planning develops transferable skills as well. The day's good, as it is as good as it is because we invite visitors from outside to play. We reach out to partners and stakeholders to come in and take part in the tournament. And after the rugby, the lads invite visitors into the sports hall where they lead a networking session, a chance to meet new people and thank each other and every visitor for giving up their time to come and play. So why am I emailing? Well, we want to make the touch tournament bigger than ever before. At our last tournament, we had over 40 visitors and still want to spread our message further. I want to create a community of rugby fans that are happy to celebrate rugby's qualities. The Get Onside course is fundamentally a case study on using rugby as a healthy outlet and a way to meet new people and find lifelong mates. So I'm asking if you'd be able to spread the message of the Get Onside touch tournament in the podcast so we can show the lads on the next course that there are so many like-minded people that are equally willing to celebrate rugby for its great bits and stop apologising for the not-so-great parts. The more visitors we get in, the more lads on the course are exposed to the brilliant rugby community that awaits them on the outside. And the next tournament is on Thursday, the 7th of November at HMYOI Feltham in the afternoon. And if you're interested in attending, email Jack Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, Jack Wright at saracens.net. And he'll give them more details and add them to the list. Simple as that.
Guys. Sure I have.
Fantastic.
I love that. I mean, I can't tell you how much I love that. Because I mean, it doesn't need to be written down as such of what rugby gives you, but that's exactly it. And what gets me about that, not to make it too much about what I think here, but all the fucking nonsense about everyone must be a role model. Like, the rugby makes you a role model eventually, or you can get something out of it, or something like that. You don't need to be a role model to play it. So when people are on the high horse about, we don't want him in the game, we don't want them in the game, you want pretty much everyone in the game, except for the most extreme case, because it's so good for people. It's so good. Yeah. So, I mean, it just brings home all that nonsense about people we don't want in the game. And actually, we want as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Great cause.
Awesome. Good work, Jack.
Yes. Shall I preview some games?
Let's do
that. So, we have got Friday night, Bristol host Gloucester. I'm afraid I think that's going to be a Bristol win.
Bristol winning that one.
Saturday in the Premiership.
Whoa, hold there. Just going to say Bristol host Gloucester. Bristol win. Am I going to be brave and say Gloucester win? I quite like this Gloucester team. I'm going to say Bristol win, but it's going to be close. It's not going to be by as much as you think. How much?
I think.
What do you think Bristol win by?
So I think it will be something like 32-16. 5 points for Bristol, none for Gloucester.
I think Bristol will win it'll be by a score. I think they'll bring Seb Atkinson back in. No, I think it'll be close.
Okay.
Bristol by a couple of scores.
So, I think we're aligned on that. So, Saturday, we have Harlequins hosting Newcastle Falcons.
I think we're all aligned on that.
Yep.
Saracens host Sale. Now, this is a bigger...
Fascinating.
This is a bigger test for Saracens. Up front, this is a real test.
Yes. Sale, can they get their attack going? I think...
Well, the thing about Sale is that you only need to score a couple of times to beat them. Now, that's not easy. That's a very difficult task.
But if they're...
Harlequins nearly did it.
If they are not going to score anything other than 4 penalties...
Oh, that's going to be a tasty game, that.
It is.
Yeah. Because that's 3 kickoff. I assume that's the televised...
I just don't think that Alex Sanderson has what it takes to go back to Saracens because they know all of his tricks.
They've got his number.
I don't think he knows all of theirs. I think it's that simple. Like, they know exactly what Sanderson is bringing, and it's going to be too much.
Did either of you see? It was late on in the game, in the Saracens game. the no-look pass from Jamie George to Ben Earl, slicing through the middle.
Yes, I think, yes.
Oh,
was it? Hang on.
It was awesome. It was the kind of thing that, had Finn Russell done that, or Marcus Smith, we would have seen replays for days.
Yeah, it's so true, actually.
I did see a no-look pass.
Beautiful.
Is it? He looked short and passed long, or long past short, was it?
He looked to pull it all the way back.
Yeah, a little pop.
And it
And then
just
just
popped.
pushed it
It was
flat.
Jamie George.
It was phenomenal.
It was delightful.
Yeah. The game's finished in the top 14. Final rugby of the weekend's just finished, and it was a good win away from home from Kyle Sinclair's Toulon. Dave Ribbon's captain of Toulon this season.
Wow, they've got a few.
One season.
Yeah, a lot of English boys in that lineup.
Was Bigger playing as well? I know he's not English.
I don't think so. No,
neither's Dave Ribbons.
He's just taking his cash.
True.
He's just taking his cash, and but Jack Singleton's playing. Carl Sinclair's in the front row. They've got Dave Ribbons. They've got Ben White, who's technically English.
Leicester Tigers and London Irish is Ben White.
Yeah,
very good player.
Antoine Frisch is out there now.
God knows what nationality he is.
French.
Is he
Irish.
officially French now?
French, Irish, English.
Has he played France yet?
He played in Argentina, I think. So yeah, he's locked in for another 3 years.
But there's two teams. Toulon have got a lot of Englishmen in it. Stade Francais have got an Englishman as one of the coaches, and they are
Marchant.
Marchant in it. Two of the most English style of rugby you will find. They
what does that mean nowadays?
It's the least. Well, yeah, that's true actually. But okay, they are the least French teams in the top 14. Just play structure, box kick, big D.
Good rugby then.
Yeah,
sort of rugby we like.
The best
rugby.
The third game on next Saturday in the Premiership is Northampton Saints hosting Exeter. Both looking for a win after this
Saints
weekend.
At home.
Do you know, after watching their pack capitulate to Bath, how do you think they're going to handle that Exeter front row?
Who capitulated to Tigers?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to work out where they are.
But they did have Tigers in the loose, was my opinion. Did they?
They did, but they couldn't get over the line. So in that first half, they had so much territory in possession, Exeter, and they could not get a single point on the board.
It's going to be a very interesting game, that. So Northampton need to work out a way just to get parity, and that's what they did last year. In fact, they did more than get parity. They got front football. So if they start getting front football again...
It's a big if with some of the players that they've lost. I think it'll take time. Genuinely. I think the back line's got the cohesion, but if they're getting poor quality ball, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it?
But equally, I don't have the full measure on Exeter, because they were underwhelming last year, shall we say, despite some great moments.
If Northampton get into an arm wrestle with Exeter, do they win it?
Probably not.
No, they don't. So can they outplay Exeter comprehensively? Also, probably not. So I think this turns into an arm wrestle, and Exeter take it.
I'm going at home, Saints.
Why?
Because they're at home and they'll be better than they were last time.
Both those things are definitely possible.
Well, one of them is definitely true.
And that's
and then Leicester Bath is the final one, isn't it?
Oh yes, sorry.
This will be brutal. I think this will be absolutely brutal.
Yeah, and I don't think Leicester can stop Bath scoring as many points out wide as they did with Exeter. So I think Bath are going to win this.
I think Leicester would have a chance. Leicester with a Andre Pollard pulling the strings.
I agree. Andre Pollard not being there is...
They've got Finn Smith. Leicester don't have Andre Pollard. I'll go Bath.
Finn
Russell.
One of them very talented Finns.
Yeah.
Yes. Finn Russell, who... Did you hear? It was very early in the comms. What's his name? Charlie Ewell's got interviewed, and he had a little... the question from the reporter was, I believe Finn Russell has lost 8 kilograms in pre-season this year. I was like, are we going to see like a really lean Finn Smith? And Charlie Ewell said, well,
Finn Russell.
No, Finn Russell. Why do I keep saying...
Finn Baxter.
Finn Baxter, that's it. Finn Baxter playing 10 for Bath. Charlie Ewell said that Finn Russell had a very good post-season off-season, and therefore he had 8 kilograms to lose, and as it turned out, he just looked exactly as he normally did.
Brilliant.
So,
but he's
wonderful.
not a big man, is he? 8 kilograms on Finn Russell is a lot of weight.
You'd notice it, and I imagine it's not like the Curry boys when during COVID they put on 10 kilograms of muscle
from bench press, from domestic bench press,
and that is not the 8 kilograms that Finn Russell put on.
Yeah, living with your hyper-competitive twin and ordering in boxes of meats while bench pressing. And it's not the same thing.
Final thing, not that it really isn't, don't need to talk about it, but Fiji won the Pacific Nations Cup. Beating Japan 41 to 17.
Apparently it was very close until the last 20 minutes, and Japan got battered by a blitz of Fiji tries.
Between 56 minutes and 76 minutes, Fiji scored 4 tries. 10 all at half-time.
Eddie Jones apparently was magnanimous in defeat.
Yeah. And Stuart Hogg is making friends and enemies in France.
What's he done now?
Pushing Thomas Ramos in the back, and he went into a ball boy, started a big fight in the Montpellier-Toulouse match.
The problem with Hogg now, aside from his court cases and everything which is levelled at him, has he crashed a car recently? Have I made that up?
Not heard that.
I don't. He may have. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe I made that up. I don't know. But it feels like he's under so much scrutiny now, and probably all brought upon himself.
I know it's people being nasty about him online.
Well, I mean, I'm sure people are horrific about him.
People are being
horrific. I don't know.
That is true.
I've not seen it. You might argue some of his behaviour warrants it.
Yeah.
I just hate a hero coming undone the way he is. I hate the slow motion car crash which is unfolding in front of us, which is his life by all his own doing. It's horrendous, and I hope he can get a grip of things, because it's just a rubbish way to end your career and end what is one of the best rugby players to come out of the British and Irish system.
Superb player on his day.
100%. And finally, are we going for beatdowns for South Africa and New Zealand in the Rugby Championship final round?
No, other way round. I think New Zealand will right their wrongs.
That's what I'm saying. Beatdowns dished out.
Sorry.
Beatdowns dished out by South Africa and New Zealand.
Yes, I am going for that.
South Africa, no, I'm not going to. I don't think I can give that much disrespect to Argentina. That said, Argentina beat All Blacks and then got absolutely hammered.
Yes. They were playing at home. They now have to travel to South Africa. Yeah. And they probably will have been having a few Malbecs after that.
Yeah.
Brilliant win.
The South African crowd will be forgiving and tame.
Do you know where this is being played, actually?
Nelspruit, the Mbombela Stadium.
Where?
Nelspruit, which is up north, out near the bush.
What is the situation with South African or Springbok test matches? Where do they decide where to play? Because they play everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, they like to spread it around, don't they?
Yeah. You'll always get games in Johannesburg, Cape Town, Pretoria,
Durban.
Those are the main 4, but then they do other. They did Portugal and Bloemfontein.
They don't own a stadium.
So they don't have a centre stadium like Twickenham or Arms Park or Millennium or Prince Palace.
Would that work better for England?
I'd love it more. I mean, having been to the 4 big stadiums to watch 2 Ireland games and 2 New Zealand games, I bloody loved it because they're all different.
Yeah.
But
and actually, to a degree that I cannot quite fathom now. I think about it, so different.
Yeah, because we just have the same experience. I mean, I don't go to Twickenham because it's bloody hard to get to. So door to door, if you get the train, what do you reckon it is? 5 hours?
Daughters are half an hour to get to Piccadilly, 2 hours on the train, an hour to get across.
Yeah,
4 hours. 4 hours to get to Twickenham.
It's a long old slog. So you get there. I mean, it's probably 4 hours to get to Tottenham, and that's probably easier to get to.
It's probably 4 hours to get to Twickenham station, and then another 20 minutes walk. So yeah, you probably are talking nearer 5 hours.
Yeah.
From door to door, from home to there, 5 hours.
I just think one test a year, although it costs the RFU God knows how much money, and they don't have God knows how much money, in either City, Old Trafford. Hey, you want to spread the game north? I mean, Anfield. I mean, there's somewhere like that in Newcastle.
Yeah, I suppose the reason why it's easier for South Africa, and I guess for New Zealand and Australia and other countries as well, is that these are rugby union stadiums, or at least part owned or wholly owned by the unions.
And there is, in New Zealand or South Africa particularly, there is incredibly fervently passionate fans everywhere in the country. Yeah. You can't say that in Liverpool. It's certainly not to fill out 50,000.
Then it is chicken and egg. You just have it in West London, and
it's a real shame. It's a real shame Elland Road is not a better stadium, because that would be dynamite.
So did you hear or read the headlines of the RFUs, what they were considering as an alternative to Twickenham?
Selling Twickenham and buying a stake in Wembley, wasn't it?
They considered a few things, but that was one of them, and a permanent base in the Midlands was another one of them.
Permanent base in the Midlands? That's interesting.
Yes, selling Twickenham and creating a permanent base
develop the Rico. Turn that back into a rugby stadium.
Christ almighty.
I mean, that's even worse.
What is the biggest stadium in the Midlands?
Villa Park?
Villa Park always used to be the FA Cup semi-final place, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, but I don't know. I don't imagine that's had a huge amount of work done on it in the last 20 years. Because there isn't really. Like
what's King Power like?
It's been at least 10 years since I've been there. It was a 30,000-seater stadium.
Yeah, Twickenham's 80, all right.
Yeah,
Twickenham's 80
plus
80,
with corporate, there's loads of corporate.
But if you
like four.
There's very few stadiums in the world that big.
The land value of Twickenham, though,
is enormous, but it is selling the family silver. Once that's gone, once that land value's gone.
Yeah, but to have a base in the Midlands sounds quite...
I mean, one thing to say is, rather than sell it, develop it, and then just the rental income of 500 homes to fund the RFU forevermore.
God, I know we talk about money all the time in rugby. In a way, though, the last people I want to have more money
100%.
is the RFU. God knows how they spend
I think the same about the government.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, it's not that we don't want the funding per se, we just don't want you to have it before we have it. That's kind of how I think.
Now, I will just say that these were kind of... The way I read this article, it was in the rugby paper a few weeks ago, was... They are considering options, not because any of them are viable options, just to, like, we must consider options, like scenario planning in case something disastrous happened and they had to sell, but ultimately, for reasons that we spoke about and many more, they ruled out all of those options and they will be staying at Twickenham.
Because they quite like Twickenham, they quite like being in West London.
And they like having this massive asset under their feet.
But why not have a second stadium?
They've not got the money to do that.
But they could share it, couldn't they? So... I mean, Leicester Tigers, I'm sure, would happily take a bit of money for...
Well, yeah, especially when there are games, Fiji, for example, where the top tier is shut.
Well, so Jim Ratcliffe was looking for some investment. I know he's worth multiple £1 billion, but from the government for...
Why can't he like rugby, for God's sake?
The new Old Trafford, the new United Stadium. So if the RFU invested a little bit into that, they could host games 3 miles up the road from where we are now.
They've got so much land around Old Trafford as well.
It is kind of... So they have bought a lot, but it's kind of landlocked with Chester Road, the train line, the Bridgewater Canal.
Well, where the stadium is currently is limited by the train line, but if they move it into where the car park is, or turn it round 90 degrees there...
Or the other side of the Bridgewater Canal.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much space.
Yeah, they've been, unsurprisingly, treated very well over the last few decades by the council, Manchester United, because it used to be only them in town, obviously, and when they were absolute top dogs for as long as they were... They basically got whatever they wanted.
I'll tell you where there's a load of land. Just under Barton Bridge. Next to the sewage works where the AJ Bell is.
Or what's the other one? What's the other bridge where they were thinking of...
Crossford Bridge.
Crossford Bridge. I would develop there.
No, I'm not sure about that.
80,000 seats.
There was going to be...
Mersey floodplain.
Who was that fella that had something to do with the AJ Bell and he was going to build a horse racing track right next door?
No. Doctor...
Yeah, whatever that guy's name
is. Hang on.
Oh, yeah.
Doctor...
Fayed.
Oh, what the hell was his name? He lived in Salford. I drove past his house once. It begins with an M. And I'm sure he's a... Was he into tech?
Whatever it might be. Anyway, they were going to do a horse. There's obviously lots of room there.
Kukash. Marwan
Kukash. Unfortunately, it's right next to some sewage works and the ugliest vista in rugby. Is that Barton Bridge, isn't it?
I actually don't mind it.
Really?
I think from TV, I was watching it today, thinking you've actually got quite a nice view across there to Barton Bridge, and it looks like you've got quite a lot of greenery around there. From the opposite angle, when you're looking from Barton Bridge down, you don't see the greenery, you just see like gravel and crud around there. You see nothing. Yeah. But the view they've managed to get from the cameras is actually not that bad.
Okay.
The major infrastructure, the Diamond Lane.
Diamond Lane.
Great bit.
They really should call it the Diamond Lane.
Sale, actually, with that lander on there, I was thinking today, like, if they could just encourage more independent vendors in, like, really have, because the future of rugby is not TV money. Everyone talks about TV money. Throw it in the bin. Like, that ship has sailed. There's no more TV money. It has to be event money from having crowds in, yada, yada, yada. And also, it circumvents the CVC deal, which is horrific. But if they could just get more vendors in, like, if you go to Harlequins on a match day, it's such a good atmosphere. If you go to Bath, it's such a good day
People
out.
walk to the ground.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
You can't do that.
walk. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Stockport was great.
It was.
I used to really enjoy games at Stockport.
I did as well. I enjoyed
the pubs around there were bouncing. And now it's all been gentrified. It would be amazing.
You go for a drink in Stockport now.
Yeah.
Ace.
And the places by the, like Basque is my mate's place near the train station.
Right by the
bloody,
train station.
There's so many good spots now.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome. But there you go. We get the AJ Bell
You
instead.
have to go and watch Stockport County.
You're going
to enjoy that.
And you can pick up your tea from Aldi now.
Yeah, that's true.
Or go to Toby
How did Annabelle enjoy it?
She absolutely loved it.
Oh, really?
And I didn't have the heart to tell her it was a terrible game. I mean, she absolutely loved it.
What did she love about it? Did she love the actual... Was she into the game? Was it just the crowd, the singing? Donuts.
So we had donuts.
Yeah.
The drum was too loud for her. I was like, well, if anything, I think it's probably not loud enough. She just loved the atmosphere. I didn't want to tell her, there are other atmospheres available or whatnot. If she's happy with it, she's happy with it. Yeah. So overall, a remarkable success.
And how did you get there? Did you go to the Trafford Centre and then get the bus?
I used press accreditation, just parked.
Parked at the stadium?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I was going to say, because I've already told you that the spot...
Don't tell anyone.
I'm not going to tell anyone, but I've already got the cheat spot of where to park for Sale Sharks.
Yeah. We did, when we went last year with the kids, we did park at the Trafford Centre and bus across. And that was actually all right. That was pretty easy.
Yeah, if you park in TK Maxx and they bus you back, it is really good. But it's just that mental block, isn't it? You think, this can't work. This isn't going to work. We're in Britain. Nothing works. Like, there's no way a regional rugby club's going to pull this off. But they do.
What you need to do, JB, is get one of your pilot friends to fly us into Barton Airfield, and we can just walk across the road.
Sale Sharks have their own plane. Do you know that?
What?
Do you not know this?
No.
Yeah, Sale Sharks had their own branded plane about 5-6 years ago. And I think it must have been Jed Mason's aircraft. And had Sale Sharks on the tail fin and everything. Went in that bought an aerodrome.
If you had your boat, you could sail up the ship canal.
My next boat.
Oh, your next boat.
But this was a thing which I suggested seriously to Sale Sharks, right? The ship canal goes all the way into Manchester.
You get to
a booze boat.
And get
correct.
A booze boat to the ground.
Yes. So you pick up people, right?
Now you're talking.
From Dukes or somewhere like that on Deansgate, or and then you slowly make your way.
Are there locks? There's locks though.
Well, we get minions to do the locks.
Well, no,
I don't think there is.
Not on the ship canal. The ship canal's way too... Because the ship canal is the one that goes closest. The Bridgewater Canal, traverse it goes over the top of the ship canal. But even the Bridgewater, there's no locks.
No, there's not, because I've been on the Bridgewater quite far down.
I run on it all the time.
Yeah, so the ship canal... Oh, yeah, you do, don't you?
It's perfectly flat.
Yeah, it is.
No locks.
The first set of locks you come to on the ship canal is actually at Sale Sharks. So you could easily disembark there. Then, all hammered, all wandering in across like the brambles and whatnot. So you'd have to, do something to get the people in. But after you've been drinking from wherever it is, you meet there, you get on that is a great corporate day out, or just a great day out, a great podcast event, a great podcast event.
A booze boat to the ground. If there's a big Sale game, I tell you what,
they're all big, Tim. Every one of them's big.
Genuinely. Let's have a look at the fixture list. Maybe pick a fixture, and I think it's
in May.
If you build it, they will come. If it's logistically doable and affordable at a per head cost, let's do it.
Do you know when it would have been great? Is pre-COVID, when people were not working from home, and it was going from city centre
on a Friday evening,
5:30 with the 7:45 kickoff. It would have been dynamite, absolute dynamite. And you travel down, go and watch the game, and then you get your Ubers from there. What a brilliant idea! Why am I not in charge of events? I clearly should be.
Right, we're done.
We are done.
Thank you very much for watching. Patreon.com/EggChasers for more. And let the boys end.
The boys end.
Discover Hydro, the best kept secret in fitness. Hydro is the state-of-the-art at-home rower that engages 86% of your muscles, delivering the ultimate full-body workout in just 20 minutes. From advanced to beginner, Hydro has over 500 classes shot worldwide and taught by Olympians and world-class athletes. For a 30-day risk-free trial, go to Hydro.com and use code ROW450 to save $450 on a Hydro Pro rower. That's HYDROW.com, code ROW450.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
At the UPS Store, we understand the importance of a first impression. That's why we're here to help you put your best foot forward and be unstoppable with our printing services. With high-quality paper stock options, banners, business cards, menus, and more, we make sure your small business stands out and your message reaches the masses. After all, we're the one-stop prints that pop store. Most locations are independently owned. Product, services, prices, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Be unstoppable. Come into your local store today and get your print on.